Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well. I cannot hear you. I know what that was. Okay. Good. Let me know if you can hear me, kits and cubs, out here. No sound from Mr. Grizzly. Does everybody hear me? Yes, kits and cubs. I know silence on the Grizzly. Does anybody hear me? Oh, I'm double? Oh, I'm good? All right. Well, good morning and hello, kids and welcome to season 4 and episode number 627 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is, I believe, I'm not sure what day it is, Thursday, April 17th, 2025, and it is a really, really nice day here at the Beaver Lodge, actually. If I'm looking out, it's a clear blue sky, which I really like to see. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey. And with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Hopefully we can hear him.
You should be able to hear me now.
Yes, we do. Thanks.
My whole computer crashed while the credits started to roll. Like the
Oh.
whole thing just died. I'm like, what the fuck? Everything went black. Everything died, and it said we restarted because there was a problem. So it sent the report to Apple. And then when I tried to come back in, it didn't connect with my mixing console. And anyway,
All right, but you're here now.
I'm here now.
Okay, good. So big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Mr. Grizzly, other than the momentary spike of adrenaline, how's your mental health today, sir?
Yeah, okay, I think. Yeah, I've been up since 5, so should be good. Although I started to read. I'm going to do some narration. I'm going to narrate the forward and just send it to Mark and see what he thinks.
Why not?
Yeah.
I
said I would, so why won't I, right?
Yeah, good idea. Why not? All right. Let's see. Kids and Cubs, as we tend to do before we go any further today, because we are going to talk about the debate and about something else that Mr. Grizzly has for us today. But before we do that, we are going to go look at the polls today. Now, there's not going to be a shift because of the debate, right? That's too early for anything to register. That if there's going to be any type of shift, that's going to come over the next 3 to 5 days, I would say. But at the moment, if we're looking at a 338 Canada, their vote projection has Liberals at 44 and Conservatives at 38. So we're back to a 6-point gap here. And on seat projection, Liberals going up here to 193, Conservatives going down to 121, the Bloc up to 20, NDP up to 8, and the Greens at 1 at the moment with this one, with the odds of winning the most seats going to the Liberals at 99% and the odds of a Liberal majority at 84% on that one. If we go to the CBC poll tracker, I think we'll have a similar. They're all staying within a range here, and not much change yet. In the poll tracker, there was a bigger dip for the Liberals than for the Conservatives. So the Conservatives would have closed the gap by 0.4%. A little gain for the New Democrats, a little gain for the Bloc, a little gain for the Greens in here. But it still has the Liberals with 197 seats, Conservatives 120, the Bloc back at 20, New Democrats at 5, and Greens at 1. And there was an aggregate of a board that came by, that passed by the later on yesterday, that had a table of the 4 aggregates, and all of them again were in a certain range. There was one of them that was way more generous towards the Liberals, but they were all still within the range, but 1 more to the top end of the range and 3 more to the bottom. So again, not much movement, but the narrowing kind of seems to have ceased as well. So now we're going to get some results from the debates over the next coming days, and if there's a shift or not. With regard to tariffs, I'm not sure, to be totally honest, if there's any new news because I've just been focused so much on the debate. So if there is anything there, I have missed it. But if we are looking at the markets yesterday, things were going well until about 11 something in the morning when things started to tank again. So I'm not sure whether or not somebody said anything or whether or not that was just some things got a little frothy rather quickly and it was taking a breather. But in after-hours trading, it says that the Dow's futures, or the pre-market open, says that it's going to be down about 1.5%. that with the S&P futures and the NASDAQ futures actually up a little bit. So it would be a mixed market morning here on those indices. And if we're looking at the Asia Pacific region, mostly an up day, a little bit down in Shenzhen and a little bit down in Taiwan, but everything up from just over 0 to close to 2% in all of Asia Pacific. And in Europe, European markets that are trading, everything is down, but slightly, everything less than 1%. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of movement today or not. But yesterday there was a little more movement than expected based on the opening, the pre-market open expectations. So something must have shifted at some point. The other thing is that the Bank of Canada did, and as we were talking about, I couldn't get a sense one way or another if there was going to be a rate cut or not. Well, the Bank of Canada has decided to hold off on the rate cut for now, so it is still at I think 2.75%. But there's another decision coming down soon. I think the bank felt that with the turmoil and actually with the inflation numbers going as they did, and having a little more breathing room with the dollar, we could probably afford to wait and be a little more cautious before having to make another cut. But it still seems that the general trend will still be 2 cuts at some point later on this year. That's all I've got for the things that we do when we check in on the morning. Mr. Grizzly, you have something that I saw a little bit about while I was doing some debate stuff, but didn't have some time to look into. So, but it seems like it is juicy and big.
Well, according to the New York Times, and their headline is, "A wellness company with false claims, global aims, and a Toronto island." A little-known European company with big ambitions has drawn public outrage in Canada's largest city. The company, which runs a spa and water park in Romania, is laying extensive plans to develop similar facilities around the world. Its contract in Toronto was offered a blueprint of sorts, a favorable 95-year lease in which the Ontario government bears the upfront cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's Ontarians' money. Auditors last year found the contracting process had been unfair and opaque, just as the European spa company Therme was pushing forward its plans for a multi-billion-dollar expansion to other major cities in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Here's where it gets interesting, though. A New York Times investigation showed that in pitching itself to the world, Therme has misrepresented itself, misleading the Ontario government and exaggerating its experience in its bid to secure the Toronto deal.
Shocker.
The investigation, based on corporate filings in 3 countries and interviews with a dozen people involved in the company's operation and the bidding process, found that Therme falsely presented itself as an industry player that operated as many as a half dozen spas in Europe. In fact, it had built and operated just one, outside Bucharest, Romania. And as it pitched its vision for Toronto, Therme's finances appeared to be shaky. Auditors found it was losing money and had less than €1 million in equity. The Toronto project gave the company a vital boost and laid the foundation for more growth. Therme secured funding for a similar project in Manchester, England, and made plans for one in Dubai. It is also closing in on a deal to redevelop federal waterfront land in Washington overlooking National Stadium, and is seeking approval from the Dallas City Council for a project there. Each project costs about $500 million, meaning Therme will need at least $2.5 billion to deliver them. Company executives are unfailingly confident, selling their vision through appearances at events like the World Economic Forum in Davos and the Venice Biennial. That vision is based on the idea that around the world there's a vast untapped market of people who will pay about $40 to relax, socialize, or talk business at a facility that's part water park and part bathhouse, with flourishes like swim-up bars, towel dance performances, and film screenings in a sauna. Bathhouse. Now, what does that bring to mind? Anyway, companies often use hyperbole to raise private sector money, but Therme first won a key government contract based on its business portfolio, then set out to build that portfolio. Since Therme is pursuing not just investors, but also government contracts, it has found itself under closer scrutiny than it would have were it doing strictly private sector deals. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who won re-election in February, has faced criticism over his administration's perceived coziness with developers. You don't say. In recent years, the local press reported that he promised an audience of real estate representatives to rezone a chunk of a nature reserve, the Greenbelt, and open it for construction. In the Therme deal, in which the company is leasing an artificial island in Lake Ontario, Mr. Ford's government took several unusual steps that reduced oversight. The entire island's development was exempted from key environmental checks and was classified as a real estate transaction, allowing the government to avoid more rigorous reviews and standards typical in public contracting. The province's bidding process itself was unusual. Participants had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and according to several bidders who spoke on condition of anonymity because they had signed those agreements, there was a disclaimer. The government could choose whatever company it wanted, whether or not it had met the bidding requirements or even submitted a proposal.
What?
Yeah, right? I'm like, so
Did the RCP read this article?
I don't know, but I hope somebody sent it to them. Infrastructure Ontario, the government agency that managed the bidding, said in written comments at the Times that the process was designed to be flexible while still being infused with some of the best practices from more formal procurements. The agency refused to answer follow-up questions. The province of Ontario is fronting $500 million for this, and they get to choose who builds it despite whether or not they even submitted a proposal. Mr. Ford, who's often declined to comment for this article, has championed the Therme project. They're coming here to build a state-of-the-art, one of the most beautiful facilities that they have right across the world, he told the news media in 2023. We're fortunate to have them pick Toronto, except they haven't built right across the world. They've built one in Bucharest. Mr. Ford's comments mirrored what Therme had told his government. Therme Group has proven the success of its concept with 6 globally placed facilities under operation, the company said in 2019 in its bid for the Toronto Island property. Therme's apparent global experience boosted its bid. The Ontario government believed that the company had a proven track record in delivering similar projects. The team evaluating the bid wrote in its note at the time. In 2023, the company doubled down. Therme Group currently operates 4 large-scale facilities in Germany and Romania, it told the Ontario authorities. In fact, the only spa Therme had ever operated was in Romania, where visitors can enjoy baths, saunas, and water slides year-round under a climate-controlled glass dome. The facility is lush with orchids and palm trees. Therme's founder, Robert Hania, says he selected them personally in Florida, Malaysia, and Thailand. So, how could this company headquartered in Austria and running one facility in Romania persuade the Ontario government that its business portfolio was far larger than it actually was? The hint lies in the company's insignia on riff on Botticelli's Venus. It bears a striking similarity to the logo of another European spa complex, one built and operated by an entirely different company with the same name. And I'm going to show that image to you right now, because you got to see this.
Oh my, are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. It's out of this world, off the charts, ridiculous. Wait till you see this. This is the image, okay? So there's Therme Erding with the Botticelli Venus on the right, and Therme Bucharesti with the Therme Spa that is scamming the province of Ontario. The logo of Robert Hinia's Therme Spa in Bucharest closely resembles the logo of the Therme Spa founded by Joseph Wund. Same namesake logo. In an interview with the Times, Mr. Hinia recounted touring the spas and water parks of Europe in the mid-2000s, looking for inspiration for a piece of land he owned near Bucharest that sat on top of geothermal springs. That brought him to the thermal baths of Erding, Germany, a town northwest of Munich, he said. The owner was a businessman and architect named Joseph Wund, who had built several spas and communal baths across the country. Mr. Wund's company was called Therme. The two men struck up a friendship, and when Mr. Henia launched his Bucharest spa in 2016, he called it Therme Bucharest, a kind of homage to his friend's company. Mr. Henia's new venture used a variation of Mr. Wund's company logo, but the two ventures had no business connection. While Mr. Henia said he spoke frequently with his friend, the men most often talked of loftier things than spas, preferring to focus on the future of humanity philosophy, Mr. Henia said. In 2017, Mr. Wund was killed when his private plane crashed. Mr. Henia did not inherit his friend's spa company. Instead, he inherited its story. While the German spas continued operating as distinct businesses, they became indistinguishable from Mr. Henia's spa in public discourse and, importantly, in submissions to the Ontario government. The company representative said Therme's wording could have been more precise and that references to its success in Germany were meant to communicate that the concept of Therme had been successful because of Mr. One's track record in Germany. Mr. Henia replicated the model, the representative said, and felt he had contributed to it in his conversations with his friend, an agreement between the two companies to share information. It goes on from there, but I think that
Keep
kind of
going.
says
Keep
it. Yeah?
going.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is juicy.
Even before he built the Bucharest Spa, Mr. Henia was considering expanding, he told the Times. He predicted nothing less than that the Therme concept would become necessary infrastructure for the modern age, a gathering place akin to the Roman baths for people of all ages and walks of life. But his company's finances were tenuous. Ontario government analysts concluded as they reviewed the bids. Therme had low liquidity and it was not cash flow positive, one Infrastructure Ontario advisor wrote in a 2022 email that was made public as part of the auditor's report. The financial condition of the Therme Group auditors would later conclude appeared weak. For a company with one location and a delicate balance sheet, Mr. Henia spent aggressively. He hired more than 200 engineers, architects, and experts who had worked for Mr. Wund. The company engaged in extensive public relations work, sponsoring cultural events and discussions on design and wellness, setting up information booths at major civic fairs. Such spending was made possible because of another of Mr. Henia's friends, Hubert Spiegel, a longtime executive of an Austrian engineering firm that specializes in heating and cooling. The company, A-Heat, has been a patient partner. A-Heat and Therme executives said, having invested extended loans and bankrolled Mr. Henia's business through the pandemic. This was key to Therme's pitch in Canada. Whatever its own numbers showed, its backing was solid. Mr. Spiegel did not agree to interview with the Times. Financial filings in Romania, Germany, and Austria show a network of linked Therme corporate entities borrowing money from and doing business with each other. The complexity of that structure makes it hard to draw conclusions about the company's financial health. A spokesman for Therme said the structure was a function of the complexity of its businesses across continents. The Toronto deal was a high-profile affirmation for Therme. Announcements about new projects and outside investment followed. The company had also been stepping up its PR work. With an eye toward the American market, Mr. Henia recruited and hired urbanists. One was a co-founder of the Highline Park in New York. Another was a prominent real estate development consultant with expertise in privately financed public parks. Therme bought multiple art installations from the Serpentine Gallery in London. Company spokesman said that Therme planned to incorporate art into its new facilities. The company flew community representatives and social media influencers to Romania to visit Therme Bucharest. Therme is a major corporate donor to the Kennedy Center in Washington, and Mr. Henia serves on its corporate board. The mayor's office there confirmed that Therme has submitted a development proposal for Poplar Point, 110 acres of waterfront along the Anacostia River, now managed by the National Park Service. Therme is also eyeing 22 acres of land near the Trinity River in Dallas for another project and is seeking formal approval from officials there. Last December, nearly 2 decades after Mr. Henia first visited Mr. One's spa near Munich, his company bought it, drawing on a $335 million loan that it secured from Sydney-based Macquarie Capital, an investment firm owned by a major Australian bank. Therme had finally purchased a spa it had claimed to run. In 2025, Therme announced its first new outside investors. An American real estate investing firm, Sculptor Capital Management, invested $250 million to start work on the stalled Manchester complex. A New York real estate firm, the Georgetown Company, bought a 25% equity stake this year in Therme's U.S. business. That deal, Therme said, would help it develop 10 American projects in the coming years. The company has yet to secure outside investment for its Toronto project, but the Ontario government has been busy clearing land for Therme on West Island. Local residents woke up one morning in October to find that dozens of old trees had been ripped out. The lease with Ontario requires Therme to start building by spring 2026. Wow. That was co-written by Martina Stevis-Gridnoff and Rebecca R. Ruiz. Martina reported from Toronto and took a boat to West Island in Lake Ontario, where Therme Ontario will be developed. Rebecca Ruiz reported from London and visited Therme Bucharest in Romania, and that is from the New York Times. That is what we call in the business, folks, scathing. Somebody should go to prison. And
wow.
I think that alone could bring down the current government of Ontario, and it should. It should. The fact that one line is just like, it floors me. They can, what it was, where's the one? I got to read it again because it was like, are you kidding me?
They didn't send anybody out to actually see if the locations they had in their pitch
Real.
were there.
Yeah.
And they
The
gave them
government
a
could
95
choose.
freaking year leave. Like, are you fucking? Okay, oh my God.
Well, this is the thing that kills it. The government could choose whatever company it wanted, whether or not it had met the bidding requirements or even submitted a proposal. This is corruption of the highest order.
Who does this?
Well, Doug Ford and the Ford government, clearly.
Oh
The
my
Auditor
God.
General said the bidding process was screwed.
This is as sloppy as I mean, like,
Well, and the fact
really
that he's
sloppy.
tied to the Kennedy Center now too is just cute because who's the head of the Kennedy Center? Who made himself?
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
level of corruption.
Shit.
This is massive, and of course, everybody's denying it. And Doug Ford said, "Well, we're gonna look into that. We're gonna have a look at that right away." What did I want to quote Ford here?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Where have I heard that before? Something that you wear around your waist that might be the color of the screen behind me.
Yeah.
Belt,
This is what Ford had to say. When I
Greenbelt.
heard this allegation, I went directly to the minister and the deputy and said, "Here, look into this. They're going to look into this allegation and find out." Look, the New York Times does not report things very often, hardly ever, almost never, that have not been thoroughly researched, vetted, and are factual. The New York Times rarely ever prints a retraction because they get it right. This is massive. I mean, this is massive. RCMP needs to look into this. OPP needs to look into it.
Yeah. It's like, hello, RCMP, do you have another gear?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them, maybe, because it would be time now. So yeah, well, now we know why you wanted to go early.
Yeah.
That's what the kids said, eh? Wow.
This is just.
Wow.
I mean, he destroyed basically a delicate ecosystem that had rare birds that had nested and made that their home. We don't know what else, insects, animals, destroyed that for a scam. Then look, we've been saying for the longest time, this is a scam. This is a real estate scam. I didn't know it was this big. I had no idea it was this intense. I mean, this is corruption at the highest level.
And listen, man. Okay, because you asked, right? If he's in on it, that's something. And if he's not, like, this is way too. Pardon my language, are fucking sloppy.
Well, how many times has David Wallace told us Ford is a willful idiot?
Oh my word!
David Wallace has told us, look, he's a puppet for whomever pulls his strings.
God,
If it has dollar signs attached to it, he's going to jump on it.
jeez, we should come up with something for Doug Ford to invest in.
Yeah.
No. Come on.
I know. This is just scathing is not even. It doesn't even begin to cover it, right? It's like, huh?
My question is, how did it take so long? If it was this obvious, how did it take so long for someone to want to look?
I mean, it's what, 6 years? 6 years that this goes back? 2019? Actually, it goes back before that, I think, but 2019 is when they really doubled down on it and said, yeah, this is just, and this was from yesterday, this report in the New York Times.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, let's add to that because while you were chatting while you were informing us of this, I should say, Kit Uncover highlighted something. This is of today. Former Ford government staffer must hand over any Greenbelt emails in his personal account or else watchdog warns. If he doesn't comply, Ryan Amato could be called to explain himself under oath, Ontario's information and privacy watchdog says. Ooh. Wow. The former Ford government staffer at the center of the Greenbelt scandal must give up any Greenbelt-related emails sent to or from his personal account, according to Ontario's Information and Privacy Watchdog. The direction comes in a recent decision by the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, which ruled in favor of an appeal by the Toronto Star regarding access to Greenbelt-related emails sent to or from Amato's personal Gmail account in the fall of 2022, when he was chief of staff to former housing minister Steve Clark. And it's like, I'm just like listening to the sloppiness and the things that were so overlooked with regard to, and it's exactly all the things that were overlooked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, same type of sloppiness. And it's like, I find it hard to believe that such sloppiness in two very concrete examples is somehow not by design. I would like to believe, I really would like to believe in the goodness of people, not first assume the worst. And it's two times, and they are both just happen to be coinky dinks. But I can't. The skeptic in me just can't. Oh my God, neither can the cynic. Wow. Amato and Clark resigned the following year in the wake of the scathing reports by the Auditor General and Integrity Commissioner. Both reports condemned the province's plans to open the Greenbelt for housing development as a haphazard process that favored a small group of developers with access to the governments. Then it goes on to tell a bit of the story here, but Doug Ford, and then it goes to this particular Freedom of Information request that was filed in August 2023. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing responded by providing the Star with emails Amato had forwarded from his personal account to his government account, saying they were the only records within their control. Then the Star appealed to the IPC. Amato, who did not respond to the questions for this story, used his personal email in at least 3 interactions with lobbyists or a fellow government staffer regarding changes to the Greenbelt. These emails are only known about because they were forwarded to Amato's or another political staffer's government account. It's not known how many other times Amato used his personal email to discuss Greenbelt matters. There's only 3 that they know of. Lawyers for Amato provided a brief submission to the IPC in response to the Star's appeal, describing the Star's contention that additional records exist as, quote, merely speculation. Ruling in the Star's favor, the IPC adjudicator, Catherine Ball, ordered the ministry, quote, to assert control over Amato's Greenbelt-related personal emails and direct him to provide any such emails. Ball wrote that she was, quote, not persuaded by the ministry's argument that there is little it can do to compel former employees to cooperate with records requests. Quote, I do not agree with the ministry's submission that Amato's refusal to produce records, coupled with the ministry's purported inability to compel production, lead to the conclusion that a senior official at the ministry could not reasonably expect to obtain copies upon request. Ball wrote that the ministry is ultimately responsible for ensuring employees comply with government rules and procedures around record retention and the use of personal email to conduct government business. In its submissions to the IPC, the ministry said it had asked Amato for any Greenbelt-related emails in his personal account and that he had twice refused. However, Ball noted that in its correspondence with Amato, the ministry did not, quote, expressly assert its control over his personal emails related to government business. In other words, they were asking nicely. Ball found that Amato provided, quote, no cogent explanation for not cooperating with the ministry's request. She wrote that Amato had also declined to assist her in her decision. She pointedly warned that it's within the IPC's power to, quote, summon and examine on oath any individual who may have information relating to an inquiry. A ministry spokesperson said they would comply with the adjudicator's order and write to Amato to pursue, quote, any emails relevant to this matter. The ministry must send this written direction to Amato by May 21. Amato would then have until June 11 to provide either the emails or an affidavit attesting that none exist. Bum, bum, bum. Damn.
So, can we get the New York Times to look into the Ontario Science Center?
Damn.
Or, somebody else do a little bit of research like that, because
How about waiving that $1 billion fine for the 407?
Yeah. Was it 1 billion or 2?
I think it was 1.
1, 2.
I might be wrong.
What's a couple billion between friends?
Exactly. Billion here, billion there. At some point, you're talking about real money.
Well, the thing is, we've been desensitized to words like billion and trillion over the last few years. Right. And you need to understand the differences, right?
Right. Well, you do the thing with the seconds all the time, right?
Because it registers with people.
Exactly.
1 million is 12 days. 1 billion is 32 years. 1
Right.
trillion is 32,000 years.
Right.
1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. 1 billion seconds, I mean, shit, that's 32 years, man. So 2 billion is 64 years. 2 billion seconds. I mean, that puts it into a context I think most people can understand.
Yeah. And we're also in an age, which is kind of weird, that when there's a government announcement of funding, if it doesn't start with at least billion, it's like, oh, well, that's not much.
It's not, yeah.
So it's like we have a sense and we don't.
Well, and
right?
how many times have contracts, or it's like in my former life, oftentimes they say, oh, it's under 10,000, just go ahead and do it. And then certain governments said, no, anything over 5,000, we need a bidding process. And then somebody smart said, hold on a second now. Half the stuff we do is over $5,000.
Yeah.
You do realize that you're going to have to raise the ceiling on that because costs have increased on everything. If you get a bid for everything at $5,000, anything that starts at come on, it's going to cost more than the contract.
Yep.
So that's why they started raising the ceiling to, I think it's 15,000. If it's under 15,000, just sole source it and get it done. It's quicker and it saves more money in the long run. And it's true. It's absolutely true.
It is. But there's a reason why there's a limit.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and
there's a reason why you can't break your contract down into under $5,000 pieces and have 5 contracts made.
Yeah.
Right? It's like going to the genie and making your third wish, wishing for more wishes.
Yeah, you can't. No, that's against the rules.
You can't do that. But yeah, ooh, trouble. I'm hearing Taylor in my head. Trouble.
This is like the worst possible thing to happen to the Ford government at the worst possible time for the Ford government. Sure, they've just been reelected. Sure, they have a slim majority. Sure, they have a 4-year mandate. Excuse me, Doug. This is going to bring your government down because it's a corruption of the highest level. And we're still waiting on the Greenbelt scandal, which is being reviewed by the RCMP or investigated by the RCMP. So it's only a matter of time before this all comes to light. Look, sooner or later, everything comes out into the sunshine. And boy, does that sunshine wash the filth off.
Sunshine is the best disinfectant.
It is indeed.
Right? Oh my word. Wow.
Yeah. I sent you the link in the private chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some surprise juiciness there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That's just wow.
Dougie, you and Danger Boy.
But it's that line, though. It just, I'm like, they can just, anybody that can get it, whether or not they even submitted a bid. I'm sorry, what?
Well, listen, let's put it this way. Look at it the other way. If Doug Ford wasn't even in on it, and it's just sloppy incompetence, the brazenness of that play, like that's like brass balls dipped in solid gold, dipped in. Oh my wow!
And again, let's look at the logos for. The one on the left is the one that is scheduled to build in Toronto. The one on the right is one that actually had several spas. Like, how were they allowed to go ahead and do that? I mean, that just, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, PNC Bio got to hear. I'm not really kidding here. Conservatives seem to have a real problem with doing the homework for bribery, from this to Airbus to waterways.
My name is Karl-Heinz Schreiber. Remember that?
Everybody has a blind spot.
Yep.
Wow.
But look, with Mulrooney, it was what? But Trudeau, yeah, exactly. yeah, but Trudeau. With Mulrooney, it was Aga Khan Island cash, right? But with Doug Ford, it's like what, $500 million for a parking garage, and we're going to front all the money, and Therme will pay us back over 95 years. And they've already run the metrics on it and said if Therme was booked solid for the next 95 years, they still wouldn't be able to pay back the money.
Jeez.
And they took into account, inflation over the next 95 years, year by year. Even if they were booked solid and rose the prices according to inflation, they could not pay back the money. There just simply wouldn't be enough. Well, ivermectin is not really a disinfectant. It's an anti-parasite.
I don't care. 50 beaver points.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I got to step away for just a minute. I will be back shortly, sir, if you want to carry on.
All right.
I'll be back as soon as I can. I got to take care of something.
All right. So we move on to the debates. There was drama, darlings, when it came to the debates. The Federal Debate Commission, which I believe was something that was set up by Prime Minister Trudeau to sort of set some standards, because there was always debates about the debates. For some reason, we're trying to put an end to that, and it was former Governor General David Johnson who was at the head of that. I think at the time, I'm not sure if he's at the head of it anymore. I think it's Michel Cormier now, if I'm not mistaken. But they set the terms for inclusion in the debates, and it would seem that, and they set the time and everything. So the first thing they did was change the time, because there was the hockey match. And again, right, everybody knew that there was a hockey match at that time because the NHL season was there. They could have chosen the debate at the end at another time, but nobody expected it would be do or die. Turns out, for those who are Habs fans and who do like we wanted to do that, it was a good decision in that sense, because people got to watch both, and the Habs did win. So go Habs, go! They're in the playoffs. However, it did give an advantage to Blanchet that he did not have before, and it gave an advantage to Singh that he did not have before. Then, for some reason, the Federal Debate Commission made two more changes at the last minute. About 12 hours before the debate started, or fewer than 12 hours before the debate started, they let the Greens know that they were no longer eligible to participate. Now, their reasoning for this is that because, I guess at the time of filing, you had to be fielding, there were three conditions, right? 4% in a certain number of polls. And people were wondering how they made that criteria, because the polls we've been showing weren't showing that. And then there was the criteria of running candidates in 90% of the ridings, and then there was having a seat in the House, at least. And it was the running candidates in the 90% of the ridings, because originally the Greens had announced that many. And then it seems that there are about 15 or so that decided that they weren't running, to not split the vote. But then there was another couple, maybe about 50 or 60, that weren't filled. And that did not bring them to 90%. They're basically saying that at the time, and then this is where it gets technical, right? At the time that they filed, they did have those candidates, right? So it is true. And then, or they had races going on to have those candidates, or whatever it is. And then they decided to make some moves. But the problem is that the gap in candidates that are missing versus the gap in candidates that said that they may be moved aside for strategic reasons, it's too large, right? But the other thing that makes it odd is that all the candidate lists were final on April 7th, and here we are on April 16th. And now all of a sudden, because of this, you're disqualified fewer than 12 hours. It seems that there were some political parties lobbying the Federal Debate Commission to enforce way. And it seems that the Debate Commission acquiesced. I don't have much corroboration of that. I heard that from one source that I was listening to last night, but I didn't hear it from all around, so I don't know how solid that piece of information is as to whether or not it was lobbied. But it would seem that that's how it kind of went down. So they were lobbied to change the time, and then they were lobbied to exclude the Greens. Then it would appear that for the question and answer period, the scrums that come after, Rebel News was lobbying the commission. And it became a case very similar to that with Rachel Gilmore at CTV, where they found out the public, it was announced to the public that she would be doing this, and then CTV got swarmed with an organized effort to try to get them to dump her. And then they said, we don't have the bandwidth. Well, this was kind of something similar with the head of the debate commission. It seems that they were hounded, and it seems that there were lawsuits threatened. And Rebel was maintaining that given it has 5 divisions, it should be allowed to have 5 reporters rather than just 1, like all the other outlets. And somehow, for some reason, I don't know if it's exhaustion or whatever, but the debate commission caved to that request as well. So all of a sudden, in the space of 36 hours before the debate, the time of the debate changes, who gets to participate changes, and who gets the questions changes. And the post-debate scrum all of a sudden becomes one of these rebel question fests with really, really loaded questions that, there's no way really to answer because the questions are just so silly. And the answers to the questions are included in the questions, or at least the answer for the story they're going to run with, right? Yeah. And that's not what this is supposed to be. Right? The journalists from Rebel, the journalists.
They're not journalists, and it's not a news organization.
I know.
They've said so themselves in court.
I know. They're so I'm not exactly sure how it is they got there. But Mr. Grizzly, I'm going to send you something here and get an idea of what's going on. And you'll see there, we don't have to watch for every question, but in the scrum, you will see the difference between serious question and a rebel style question. And here we go.
Hang on a sec. There we go.
Alors, première question en français.
Bonjour, M. Carney, Valérie Gavage de Radio-Canada. Vous êtes économiste, vous êtes banquier. Vous vous présentez ce soir devant les Canadiens et les Québécois sans chiffrer vos promesses et sans non plus indiquer où vous allez couper dans le budget des Canadiens. Est-ce que vous croyez vraiment que les électeurs sont éclairés quant à l'option que vous leur proposez?
If you want to go ahead and translate that, sir.
Sorry, I was a little distracted.
No, it's okay.
Comme je viens de dire dans le débat, nous allons dévoiler notre plateforme chiffrée le week-end, ce week-end-ci. Mais nous avons déjà dévoilé la plupart de nos programmes. Ils sont chiffrés. On a un sens des programmes. Et ce n'est pas une question de coupure.
Okay. So the question, based on the answer, was about the criticism that's coming out a lot about the fact that the major parties, the 3 major parties, did not present a costed platform prior to the debate. Mm-hmm. So, and he's basically saying that there's going to be one out on the weekend. But every announcement that's been made has been costed itself at the time that's been made, so it's not going to be too much of a mystery what the overall platform is going to look like when it's costed. And he says that it's remember that it's not a matter of costs, it's a matter of increasing productivity.
OK. C'est une question de productivité du gouvernement. Et on doit augmenter la productivité du gouvernement en ce qui concerne les dépenses opérationnelles. Et on peut avoir une discussion pendant le week-end et il reste une dizaine de jours avant la date de la vote. Merci.
Je comprends, mais
says-
l'occasion des débats, c'est quand même une occasion.
So he says we have to augment the productivity of the government in its operational activities in order to get a better value. And he says, but even if the platform is coming out after the debate, there's still about like 9 to 10 days in the campaign. So there'll be plenty of time to talk about it.
Okay.
La date de la vote. Merci.
Je comprends, mais l'occasion des débats, c'est quand même une occasion exceptionnelle de parler à un grand nombre de Canadiens à la fois, contrairement, par exemple, à ce quand vous présentez vos plateformes de façon séparée. Et là, ce soir, vous nous arrivez avec un chiffre de 500 milliards de dollars que vous comptez investir dans l'économie canadienne. D'où viennent ces 500 milliards-là?
Ça vient d'une...
So he's going, but a debate is nevertheless a platform to talk to a large amount of people all at once. You said in the debate that there's going to be about $500 billion of investment in Canada with you. So where do you find these $500 billion?
D'une combinaison des investissements catalyseurs du gouvernement du Canada, par exemple. En ce qui concerne le fonds d'accélérateur dans le secteur du logement ou des réductions de redevances dans le secteur du logement, ça a créé la demande d'investissement dans le secteur privé.
So he's saying a combination of catalyzing investments, such as, like, for example, the Housing Accelerator Fund, or when we cut development fees, that encourages people and the private sector to invest in those sectors.
Et des montants de 8 à 10 fois que le montant du secteur public. Et c'est cette approche économique qui est nécessaire pendant cette période d'incertitude à l'échelle mondiale, d'incertitude ici au Canada. Il faut avoir l'audace budgétaire, pas budgétaire, l'audace de politique.
So he's saying that each one of these government dollars that are catalyzing in this type of domain will multiply 8 or 10 times in terms of private investment. So in this period, this approach is necessary in this period of global uncertainty and uncertainty in Canada. And we must have the daring to be able to make moves like this.
Nous sommes, je dis tout le temps, nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Maintenant, M. Poiliev, il attend, il dit, nous sommes maîtres chez nous, c'est correct. Et on a l'occasion de bâtir l'économie la plus forte du G7. J'ai le plan de le faire. Merci.
So he goes, you have to understand, we are masters in our own domain. Pierre Poilievre has heard it and saying it now. We are masters in our own domain, but we have the opportunity here to make ours the strongest economy in the G7, and I have the plan to do it. So,
question in English, please. Hi, Mr. Carney, Kean Bexley, Juno News. In your estimation, was Justin Trudeau a good prime minister?
What the fuck does that have to do with the future?
Yep, and it has nothing to do with the debate, none of the topics, none of the, right? So, right? So what does this question serve to accomplish, right? He's either going to say something bad about Trudeau that he's going to run with, or he's not going to say something bad enough about Trudeau, and then he's going to write how, like, they're just the same.
I would say, why would you ask such a foolish, stupid question? We're focused on the future and the crisis that we have at hand right now. Justin Trudeau stepped down. He is in the private sector now, living a private life. Any commentary on the former prime minister in this forum for a leaders' debate is ridiculous.
Yes.
That would be my comment.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau and the previous administration made a number of contributions to this country. I suspect since I have 10 minutes, I think, right, for the responses, I'm not going to enumerate them all. I'll make one point which I think is relevant on the way looking forward, which is, as I said the other night in an interview, he and I, we share the same values in terms of solidarity, taking care of one another. The emphasis on reconciliation, emphasis on equality of all Canadians, and building a better country for everyone else. The difference, one of the differences, there are many, but one of the differences between the two of us goes to the question I was just asked, which is I put much more emphasis on the economy, on growing the economy. In fact, in this circumstance that we're in, given the scale of the crisis and what needs to be done, I would say a relentless focus on growing the economy to work for all Canadians.
Just to follow up, if I may, your entire campaign does seem to be predicated on putting you in the front and hiding the people that stood in lockstep with Justin Trudeau for the last 10 years. You're kind of hoping that Canadians won't connect the dots, that the people standing behind you in your caucus walked in lockstep with him. Regardless of what you say right now, Stephen Guilbeault made the carbon tax's life work. The man that moved Paul Bernardo from a maximum security prison is now your chief of staff. I'm wondering how you reconcile this and how you can trust their judgment when they thought those ideas were good ideas.
I'd say a couple of things to that.
How is that even a question?
It's closer to something you could ask, but it's not related to the debate, right?
This guy is just an agent of chaos. Come on, it's Juno News.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask why somebody who did something is in your campaign. That's a legitimate question. I think it's a waste of question in this context.
But it was a leading question. They've been locked up with Justin Trudeau for 10 years.
And you're hiding them so that you... I mean...
And moved Paul Bernardo from a maximum security... He's still in prison, isn't he?
Yeah, but loading it emotionally, loading the question, and putting his intentions on trial.
Of course.
Right?
Oh, and here's the thing. Kean will get his base fired up, and they go, yeah, Kean, fight for us. I'm like, Kean doesn't give a shit about you any more than Pierre Poilievre does. Yep. He's using you to get a little bit further ahead financially. That's it.
Rather odd question. First is that the candidates in this election for the Liberal Party, I mean, you go and see when I make an announcement. I don't think I've seen you at any of them, but next time you can come. And you will see a wide range of the candidates that are there presenting themselves. So, for example, with respect to our announcement on crime, we had Bill Blair, now the Minister of Defense, of course, formerly the Chief of Police and a long time in Toronto, and Natalie Provost, who is a new candidate. We're honored to have her, and someone who's dedicated their life to helping to end gun violence and violence against women. There is a very wide range of candidates that have come to the party with me. There's a lot of fresh blood. There's also a lot of experience that's there. And you need that combination of energy, new ideas, experience, and a fundamental passion for making this country better in order to serve at this crucial time. Thank you very much.
Question en français.
Émilie Bergeron, La Presse canadienne.
Okay. So we can move away from Carney. There's another loaded question somewhere in there. But let's go to Jagmeet Singh. Because every now and then the man gets it right. And this, I love him for this.
Okay.
Une question en français, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, Monsieur Jagmeet Singh, Alexa Lavoie pour Rebel News. Vous êtes député depuis 6 ans, ce qui vous donne maintenant droit à une pension. Avant cela, vous étiez député provincial. Autrement dit, la majeure partie de votre carrière...
So you have to stop more often. Says, you've been an MP for 6 years, which gives you right to a pension. And I missed what she said in the second bit there, sorry.
I'll back it up.
News. Vous êtes député depuis 6 ans, ce qui vous donne maintenant droit à une pension. Avant cela, vous étiez député provincial. Autrement dit, la majeure partie de votre carrière s'est déroulée aux frais des contribuables.
Before that, you were a provincial MP. So in other words, the majority of your career has been on the public dime. Hello?
20 years for
now
Pierre Poilievre, approaching 21? What?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Sorry.
But here, she's got that question.
Mm-hmm.
Pierre's going to go through that gauntlet too. And that question is not about the guy who's there for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's about the guy.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, he's got this pension. I think Jagmeet Singh's pension is about $50,000 a year. It's indexed. Sure. He also has a lot of his own money. Mm-hmm. He was wealthy before he got into politics.
Mm-hmm. But with regard to the pension, notice that they only have a problem when it's a brown guy getting the pension.
Yeah, not the white guys. What's his pension at? $210,000 a year right now,
mm-hmm.
I think?
Something like that.
Pourtant, vous avez choisi de boycotter les conservateurs, y compris les médias qui penchent à droite comme le nôtre.
So, you've been an MP and you lived on the public dime. However, you have boycotted media media like ours and right-wing media like ours.
Et vous avez appuyé le projet de loi de Justin Trudeau visant à censurer l'Internet. Étant payé par tous les Canadiens, peu importe leur orientation politique.
And you supported Justin Trudeau's bid to censor the internet, given that we're all paying for you and you're supposed to represent and speak to us regardless of whatever political stripe we have.
But why won't they ask a question like that to Monsieur Poliev? No, I know, because he's not brown and doesn't wear a turban.
Mm.
Pourquoi estimez-vous qu'il est éthiquement acceptable de marginaliser les conservateurs et de refuser de les traiter avec respect?
Why do you think it is okay to marginalize conservatives and refuse to treat them with respect? Because this question.
Je ne réponds pas aux questions de Rebel.
I'm sorry, you were about to say something?
Just because she starts off with like your pension.
News parce que c'est un organisme qui fait la promotion de la désinformation et donc je ne vais pas répondre à votre question, mais je veux prendre le temps de dire que pour moi, ce qui est primordial dans cette élection, c'est la question de qui va se battre pour vous, qui va se battre pour défendre ce qui est cher à vous.
So I'm not going to answer this question from Rebel News because it is an organization that spreads disinformation. But I would like to say that, you know, his stump speech there, but who's going to be there for you? And that's what
Donc, je parle de soins de santé, je parle de qui va défendre les intérêts de monsieur, madame. Tout le monde parle des PDG et comment on peut faire face aux grandes entreprises qui arnaquent les gens, comme les géants immobiliers, comme les grandes entreprises d'épicerie.
So, and then basically, I want to talk about health, and I'm going to talk about how we can work for Joe and Jay Canadian and not the CEOs, and, you know, stuff like that, take on the big grocers and that type of stuff that are ripping people off.
J'ai un follow-up, donc vous allez être obligé de m'écouter encore, M. Jack Meeting. Vous êtes interdit de territoire en Inde parce que le gouvernement juge vos opinions politiques.
I have a follow-up, so you're going to have to listen to me, Mr. Singh.
Yeah.
That's how she starts.
I heard that. Yeah, no, I understood that. I'm like, wow.
Inacceptable. Pourtant, ici, au Canada, vous appuyez la censure de propos que vous jugez inacceptables, notamment par la censure en ligne. En fait, vous refusez même de répondre aux questions de journalistes avec lesquels vous êtes en désaccord, comme vous venez de...
So, in India, you are deemed a terrorist for having had unacceptable views. Here in Canada, you refuse to respond to journalists because you believe they have unacceptable views.
Je présume que, selon vous, nous devrions être punis d'une manière ou d'une autre. Alors, en quoi êtes-vous différent des politiciens autoritaires qui vous emprisonneraient pour vos idées?
I have a feeling that you believe that we should be punished, so please tell me in what way you are different from the authoritarian governments that would put you in jail. But we're here for the debate.
Yeah, we're here for the debate.
We wanted to cover questions like this. I'm hoping the reason the Federal Debate Commission said yes is so that they would do this and hang themselves and never be invited again.
Yeah. I'm curious to see and hear what they're going to say in the English debate because I mean this is absurdity. This is character assassination. This has nothing to do with what just took place.
Nope.
Nothing.
C'est un autre exemple pourquoi je ne réponds pas aux questions de Rebel News parce que vous faites la...
Go ahead and translate that.
And she ended up like this. You don't answer the questions as you have just proven. And this is another reason for which I do not answer the questions from Rebel News.
Promotion de la désinformation et votre question, c'est un exemple de ça.
And it says, you promote disinformation, and your question is an example of that.
Wow.
Question in English, please.
Good evening,
She
Mr.
went, wow.
Singh.
Do you really want it in English? I could do it if you want. No, you're just joking.
Next question, please.
Kate McKenna from CBC News. Your party and the other parties haven't released costed platforms. How can we have an honest debate about your promises when voters can't see how you'll pay for them?
Well, we're the only party that has actually laid out clear examples of how we would raise money. We talked about ending offshore tax havens, enforcing the Canada Revenue Agency to get the money that we're owed. There's billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars that we're owed that we're not receiving because of a lack of enforcement. So we've laid out clear ways that we would increase revenue. We've also talked about things that we would cut. We would cut offshore tax havens, but we'd also cut fossil fuel subsidies and private consultants and instead rely on our civil servants. So we've laid out some of the real ways that we would do that, whereas the Conservatives are very clear what they're going to do. They're going to cut the services that people need. They've laid that out. And we've also seen that sadly, Mr. Carney's also talked about cutting services, and his plan to balance the operating budget in 3 years would mean $43 billion in cuts. And so if you want someone that's going to stand up and fight back against those cuts, hold the Liberals to account, you need to send New Democrats to Ottawa like you did before, and we were able to deliver dental care and pharmacare. Send more New Democrats again to Ottawa, and we will fight back against these cuts.
You spoke the least this evening of all of the leaders. I'm wondering how you feel about how you did tonight, whether you were able to communicate your message to French-speaking Canadians.
Well, ultimately, the difference wasn't as big, but initially I was worried about it. But I'm really proud that I was able to make the case to Canadians, to Quebecers, to French-speaking Canadians, that what New Democrats are going to do is stand up for what matters most to you. I made it a point to stand up for healthcare because it is so fundamental to who we are as a country. We fundamentally believe that we should take care of each other, and healthcare represents that value. So I raised that. I talked about how we can make life more affordable by putting a price cap on essential food items like other countries have done. I talked about how we can stop big corporations, corporate landlords from buying up affordable homes. I laid out how we would take the GST off of your monthly bills like cell phone and internet and give people a real break. And so in this difficult time, the question in this election is who's going to actually fight for you, not the billionaires, and sending more New Democrats to Ottawa. Voting for us is how you have someone on your side fighting for you.
Question en français.
Bonjour, M. Singh, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. On vous a entendu parler de votre traitement équitable de la part du modérateur. Pourquoi vous en prendre au modérateur dans le débat?
Okay. During the debate, at one point, Jagmeet Singh got into it with the moderator. Saying that he didn't have enough time because healthcare was not in the debate. And when the debate started, the moderator said, like I understand that you're disappointed and I will be asking you about health. Don't worry about it, even though it's not a theme. And Jagmeet got, as you'll hear his answers, he describes it as getting passionate about it, but he was kind of complaining that, like he wants to talk about it, but every time the moderator is kind of cutting him off. And so when you start complaining to the moderator during a debate that the moderator's not being fair, maybe you're not feeling like you're winning the debate.
Mm-hmm.
C'est quelque chose dans le moment, j'étais tellement passionné, donc j'ai parlé avec M. Roy après. Il n'y a pas un problème personnel. J'ai dit que je suis passionné parce que j'adore le soin de santé. C'est quelque chose qui a sauvé la vie de mon père. C'est quelque chose que j'ai utilisé quand j'étais un étudiant de droit. Je pense que c'est fondamental qu'on défend les soins de santé. C'est pour moi quelque chose de tellement personnel. Donc, j'étais passionné. Et je pense que j'ai eu l'occasion de partager comment c'est important pour les défendre parce que c'est en crise maintenant. Et c'est une crise qu'on peut régler. Donc, je pense que les gens au Québec, les gens à travers le pays peuvent maintenant savoir comment c'est important pour moi de défendre quelque chose qui est cher aux gens.
Okay. So basically trying to turn it into a positive says you have to understand that I'm very, very passionate about this subject. I talked to Monsieur Roy, who's the moderator after the debate. There's no personal feelings or anything like that. It's just that I'm very, very passionate. The healthcare system saved my father's life. I used it when I was a law student. So now Quebecers know, how passionate I get about this and, how I'll fight for it.
Okay. That makes sense. Shall we have a look at, I have to head out shortly, but shall we have a look at what...
We would, but I want to go to the last one from Mr. Singh because I think someone else from Rebel comes at the last one.
Okay, just a sec, see if I can find it here. No, it's not Rebel News, the last question. It's La Converse.
Oh, okay. Then it's not that. Okay. He was with La Converse because it was the conversation. He wasn't familiar with it in French. And he was like, should I be?
Yeah.
Suspicious. But he did answer it in good faith because it was indeed a good faith question. So Pierre, let's go see what he got. So you will...
Oh, I do have the Rebel News question.
Oh, the last one from Jack?
It's in English.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the last question. It's the second question, but it's
second last question.
News.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Singh. Drea Humphrey with Rebel News. Your party takes great pride in standing against hate such as white supremacy, Islamophobia, and online...
Sorry, I didn't get your outlet.
Drea Humphrey with Rebel News.
Okay.
Your party...
You know where I'm going to go with this, all right?
Can I speak?
Yeah, you can. I'm just going to say you know where I'm going to go with it, though.
Your party takes pride in standing against hate such as white supremacy, Islamophobia, and online hate speech. Yet you stay silent about ongoing attacks against Christians, even after conservative MP Jamil Javani's order paper question revealed that over 200 churches have been targeted by arson and vandalism since claims of remains being discovered at former residential schools swept the nation in 2021. These claims have been disproven by bands that excavated and remain unproven by those that have not. Will you condemn the rise in acts of hate against Christians today and explain what your party will do moving forward to keep Christians safe from hate in Canada?
Again, thank you, but I'm not going to respond to an organization that promotes misinformation and disinformation like Rebel News, so no, I'm not going to respond to your question.
Please keep the questions and answers.
I agree with him. Don't answer that question. It's a bullshit question.
Yep. Each leader had 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So by going up and asking a minute and a half long questions that are loaded, they take up everybody else's time.
Yeah.
Too.
And she went on about Christians and this and that, and I'm like, lady, you're black. Rebel News will throw you under the bus. Don't you know that? They will use you as the face of their organization, and once they get what they want, they're going to toss you aside. And I feel sorry for her if she doesn't know that.
But it's like, so yeah, you got to see the difference between actual questions from actual journalists and then this. And because they were allowed to send 5 and True North was allowed to send, there was a lot of the time in those 10 minutes were taken up with these questions. None of them had anything to do with what was discussed. Each one of it was a grievance question, a loaded question with something in it that pits two communities against another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's garbage.
To exploit schisms. It's just...
It's pathetic.
Yep.
It's not journalism.
Yep.
It's muckraking and mis and disinformation.
Yep. So I am hoping that this was done so that they were given rope to hang themselves. I'm hoping that that's...
Bonjour tout le monde.
Une question en français, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poilièvre. Marianne Despelteaux de Franco-Presse. Quand vous parlez de protéger la langue française à l'extérieur du Québec, vous parlez d'élargir l'accès à l'immersion. Qu'est-ce que vous promettez pour les centaines d'enfants francophones ayant droit qui n'ont pas de place dans les écoles? Parce qu'en ce moment, on ne construit pas assez d'écoles francophones à l'extérieur du Québec. Donc, est-ce que vous vous engagez à soutenir la construction?
Okay. So there was very, very, very little talk of francophones outside Quebec during this debate. It came in a little bit at the end. But this is a question from a journalist who's asking about, immersion programs and stuff like that. And there are not enough schools for that. So, would he support building enough schools so for that to happen, to promote the French language?
Merci, une très bonne question. Je me souviens quand j'étais jeune à Calgary, j'ai eu l'occasion d'assister à une école d'immersion là où mon père était aussi un enseignant dans les écoles d'immersion. Donc, je tiens ça très à cœur et je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de demandes.
So that's a good question. It reminds me when I was young and in Calgary, because I went to an immersion school where my father was a teacher. So I take the issue to heart.
Évidemment, la gestion des écoles est provinciale et c'est eux autres qui contrôlent quelles écoles sont installées dans quelle communauté. Je suis prêt à travailler en pleine collaboration avec les provinces pour faire en sorte que ce soit plus disponible.
So, of course, obviously schools are managed by provinces, but I'm ready to work in full collaboration with them in order to expand that.
So finally, he admits that provinces are in control of something.
Mm-hmm.
When he doesn't want to do anything about it, basically. Now he knows how government works because it doesn't suit his agenda. It doesn't meet his narrative. He's going to hand it off to the provinces who have always been responsible for it.
Ce que j'avais en tête, c'était une annonce que j'avais déjà faite aussi. C'est un programme d'immersion qui permet des jeunes adolescents d'aller au Québec, en Saguenay et ailleurs, où il y a une grande concentration de Français et seulement l'option de parler français et de faire une immersion pendant 5 semaines. Je l'ai fait à UQAC quand j'avais à peu près 20 ans et j'ai déjà annoncé que je pense que j'ai annoncé doubler le programme pour permettre plus de jeunes anglophones à travers le Canada d'aller au Québec, faire des immersions et commencer à maîtriser la langue française.
He says what I had in mind was an immersion program that would allow Anglophones as teenagers to go into Quebec, into regions that are predominantly Francophone, and where they would stay for 5 or 6 weeks to be really immersed so that they would have to use their French.
I'm quite sure those programs do already exist and
Yes.
have for decades.
Yes, they do. He says he would like to double that. He said he got to participate in a program like that when he was young, and he would double that. I got to participate in a program like that too, and it's a good program.
And once again, every now and then, he gets one right. And this, I agree on.
Yep. Well, this is an easy, low-cost one too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Very much so.
Merci beaucoup.
OK. Question de suivi sur l'immigration francophone, toujours à l'extérieur du Québec. Monsieur Carney a annoncé sa cible ce soir, 10 à 12 %. Quelle cible est-ce que vous proposez?
Kate, have you noticed they get 2 questions?
Yeah. Here they get the follow-up.
Yeah.
Because it's the Federal Debate Commission.
He doesn't get to control the media here.
Exactly.
So you want to translate that?
Yeah, it's basically asked with regard to immigration policy in Quebec. There was a goal set by the federal government of about 10 to, or not Quebec, but Francophone immigration to Canada. A goal set to make that about 10 to 12% of the amounts that we're bringing in. How do you feel about that?
Il me semble que ça c'est une cible raisonnable. Je suis d'accord avec lui et j'ai déjà prononcé, notre parti a déjà prononcé qu'on est en faveur d'élargir le nombre d'immigrants francophones qui viennent au Canada, et y compris à l'extérieur du Québec, pour qu'on puisse ajouter un poids démographique à la langue française. Donc, on va travailler en pleine collaboration avec les communautés pour élargir le nombre de francophones qui viennent faire du Canada leur chez eux.
So, basically saying, oh my God, he finds that target of 10 to 12% to be reasonable, and he's already said that he agrees with that and would support that and be in favor of that, and hoping that some of that percentage can go outside of Quebec as well, in order to bolster the French demographic throughout the country. So good answers for that.
Merci.
These were layouts.
Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News.
Yes.
We've seen the NDP tonight refuse to take questions from independent journalists. The Liberals have gone one step further. The Carney campaign has called the police on independent journalists. Trudeau before that brought in C-18, C-11. The Liberals are promising a revamped version of the online's harm.
For the umpteenth time, Rebel News is not a journalist organization. They are not a news gathering organization. They have testified so in court.
And courts have agreed.
They are not a news organization.
So much whining, eh? Why won't you talk to us? Why won't you talk to us?
There?
To ask why won't you talk to us? Why won't you talk to us? And ask loaded questions. It's like, it's not about you. Well, everywhere
You're
they
going
go,
to
it's
ask
about
him a
you.
loaded question, though? Or a follow-up?
Arms Act. What would a conservative government do to ensure the independence of the press and protect Canadians' right to have access to information and hold their politicians to account?
We are the only party that's willing to protect freedom of the press, of all the media.
Liar.
And we will also repeal C11, the censorship law.
It's not a censorship law.
The censorship of Canadian news on
not happening.
Web platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
You don't control those platforms. The federal government does not control those platforms. They are private for-profit industries. How can this guy speak and not lie?
We will fight back against any kind of Orwellian online censorship law like the one
defunding the CBC, the public broadcaster.
Previous Liberal government instituted. It was designed to create the possibility of preemptive arrests of people, where you could be arrested if you were suspected of sometime in the future planning to say something harmful online.
That's simply not true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me see if I get this correct.
Thought crime.
He's talking about thought crimes, which is nothing that's not in any party's platform. There are no bills tabled for any of that. He's talking about giving more access to private for-profit organizations that the government doesn't actually have a hand in. And he continues to help mis- and disinformation catalysts by saying the CBC is fake news, it's in the pocket of the Liberal Party, it's supporting Justin Trudeau. Which government started the CBC again? Oh, that's right. It was a progressive conservative government who started the CBC.
Yep.
You could be under a peace bond. I mean, it really is Orwellian. And I note that many people across the spectrum have spoken out against this censorship. Even someone like Margaret Atwood, not known to be a conservative, has said that this kind of censorship is not only bad for democracy, but inhibits artistic expression. So I stand for free speech, and we will respect the right of Canadians to have access to the media that they choose.
Okay.
The guy who won't let his candidates debate stands for free speech.
And only takes 4 questions from the media that he pre-selects and tears the mic away. He won't let any of his MPs go to any debates, but he's all about free speech, which, by the way, is an American thing. We have freedom of expression. This guy wants to be an American so badly. Why don't we just send him there?
My follow-up, Canada's suffering the most violent anti-Semitic crime wave in history.
Yes.
There have been shootings, firebombings, even a riot right.
We had this thing in World War II called the Holocaust. I think that was a little bit more of an anti-Semitic crime wave. I'm just going to go out on a limb there with that one.
Here in Montreal. But not all of this anti-Semitic hatred and incitement rises to the high level of a criminal code offense. Do you believe that foreign nationals, that is, people who are not Canadian citizens,
and here comes the racism from this bitch,
should be deported for participating in these hate marches or other pro-Hamas activities that don't rise to the level of a crime?
But the convoy, when they held my city hostage for 3+ weeks, was completely fine.
Now, realize that she's here stating that any pro-Palestinian protest is a pro-Hamas protest.
They aren't the same.
But free speech.
Free speech. What about freedom of expression,
Well, what I have said is when there is a crime involved, including crimes of vandalism, that visitors to Canada should be deported. You simply can't come here and firebomb a Jewish bakery or someone's home or smash windows out of a political riot and expect to stay in this country.
What if you're somebody who lives in this country, was born and raised here, and you're multi-generational here? Are you going to deport them too?
Well, right now, he's always talked about people who are not citizens. So you're here on a student visa or that type of stuff, or a work visa, and it's like,
Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're here on a student visa, does the Charter of Rights and Freedoms not apply to you?
It does.
Right.
It does.
So he wants to suspend charter rights for people he deems undesirable.
Yes, he does.
If you are.
And said, and just deport them.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
who's
the law.
doing that? Who's doing that right now? Somewhere else? Another part of the world that's doing that?
Mm-hmm. The law right now is that if you commit violent crime while you're not a citizen, of course, you meet with the justice system. And you either, I guess, do time here or get deported or whatnot. But again, just like liberal crime, the conservative definition of what constitutes violent crime, like vandalism. Vandalism like what? Like lighting a mailbox on fire, or vandalism like, taking out, 74 store windows down Main Street or something, setting a whole building on fire. There are different, what level of vandalism? Right? It's, once you set that bar, then you negotiate setting it lower. Right? So again, the whole concept here is that people who are not nationals who come here and commit violent crime should be deported. Yes, everybody agrees with that.
It's not up for debate.
It's not up for debate. Now the question really is now that we agree on that, let's see how low we can lower the bar as to what constitutes violent crime with regard to people we don't like.
Are on a visitor visa. We will be bringing in tougher laws to penalize those who are permanent residents and citizens who break laws and harm our communities. But look, this is the disintegration we have witnessed after the lost Liberal decade. Everybody.
Can you come up with a new freaking slogan?
Now, here's the interesting thing is that all of this type of talk, he avoided all of it during the debate like crazy.
Of course he would.
But he's blowing it in the scrum.
This group is divided against that group. There is crime and chaos in our streets. The Liberals have promoted this division by saying one thing to one group and then exactly the opposite to a different group. We had a tradition in this country before this government where you could come from places, the conflict-ridden places in the world, and you would leave the fight behind. You might have a debate about the politics of that place when you sat down in a coffee shop in Montreal or Toronto, but it never overflowed into street violence. We need to get back to that. You should know, we welcome people to this country. Sure, bring your culture, bring your traditions, bring your family, but do not bring foreign conflicts onto our streets. We're going to have peaceful streets again, and we're going to be united. All of us should consider ourselves Canadian first and put foreign divisions behind us.
Okay, so I got to tell you a quick, interesting story before I have to go because I'm already running late. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night who is a dyed-in-the-wool progressive conservative. And he was liking Pierre Poilievre for a long time. Up until 2022, when he took selfies with convoyers and brought them coffee and donuts and cheered them on. He said, that disgusted me when this man did that. He says, and then yesterday, he says, I can't vote conservative in the next election. I can't, because that notwithstanding clause he's going to use to take away charter rights of Canadians. I know they say it's only going to be that and that alone, but no. Once you open that door, everything flows through it.
Yep.
This is, again, a dyed-in-the-wool, lifelong progressive conservative. Again, the key word here being progressive. He's like, this, I can't vote for this man. Another gentleman said something similar last night and said, I think I'm going to vote for Yasir Naqvi. He goes, he's a good man. I asked him a question and he came to my door and talked to me. I said, that's a stand-up guy. He goes, he's a good MP. Again, dyed-in-the-wool, lifelong progressive conservative.
Indeed.
This guy is alienating Canadians.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'll let him continue to do it.
Yeah. It's not good. Not
No.
good. Yeah.
So I do have to run, sir,
Yeah.
but you've got full control of everything here. So I will bid everyone adieu when I'm going to be late. That's okay. It happens. Life goes on. I will see you tomorrow. And until such time as I see you again, take care and make sure to drink plenty of water.
All right, mon ami. Kits and Cubs. Oops, Mr. Grizzly needs to. Hopefully, I can take that thing down here. From where? Oh, there we go. Thank you, sir. Yes, kids are noticing the effects here. The light is coming out, the sunlight, very, very bright, and reflecting off something that is extremely shiny, which is washing out the green screen behind me. So, and as you can tell, it was like by my head before, and I was fading away. So, as the light is moving to the side, so yes, interesting special effect here. But that just means that it's a nice sunshine day here at the Beaver Lodge. So this was to give you an idea, right? You got 4 leaders, each have about 10 minutes. There are at least 5 rebel questions, 1 Key and Bexty, maybe another person from another outlet like True North or something. So a lot of the time got eaten up with that. And, again, loaded questions that don't really inform anybody. And the answer, especially the one they had David Menzies there too, the guy that was always wearing the hat, and his question was incredibly loaded. And he was told by the person to whom he asked it, and says, "Well, yeah, what you're going to write is right in the question, isn't it?" Right? It's like, so yeah, these decisions were just inexplicable. There's just no way to understand why it is that they were made. The one for the excluding the greens, I get. If you're not meeting the requirements, you don't meet the requirements. The problem with the one with the greens is that they could have told them on the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th that they weren't going to qualify. They told them 12 hours, fewer than 12 hours prior to the debate. It seems like you're going out of your way to do someone dirty at that point. But yes, I mean, if we really are rules, then yes, they should not have been there. But, and then again, rules at the time that they were being assessed and told that they were in, or rules after. So it's just various situations, and then you get the whole situation as well with the block then, where people saying, well, they're running in only 78 ridings, which is not 90% of federal ridings, but they're there, so why not us? Right? So I'm not sure if the bloc has a disposition that since they're only running in Quebec, they have to run at least 90% of ridings in Quebec. But it does bring, again, the whole point of this Federal Debate Commission was to make things really, really clear and really, really easy and standard, so there can be no more of these debates about debates. And turns out that just did not happen this time here at all, which is really sad, because that was definitely, like I said, the intent, because the entire time where the Greens were trying to get accepted into the debates, and they were always changing and changing and changing. So that's where the request for a standard, and then the PPC came along and wanted one too. But the standard just still is still changing, unfortunately. And it would just nice to have one that we know what it is, and it's just that. Paul McLeod, who's a reporter in Washington, D.C., had noted this, had picked up something about from Michel Cormier, who's the commission director. And this is what he said here. I disagree with your allegation that the Commission's application of its one reporter and one photographer per media organization policy is unfair or inconsistent. However, rather than devote further resources towards answering your letters and a potential injunction, which is neither necessary nor in the public interest, I will permit Rebel News to have one reporter and one photographer from, quote, each of Rebel News's 5 divisions participate in the scrum for the debates for the 45th general election. This is without prejudice to the position that the Commission would take in any litigation commenced by Rebel News in relation to the upcoming debates or for debates in a future action. So in other words, rather than devote further resources towards answering your letters, you've worn me down. Fine, show up. That sends a signal. Doesn't. That sends a signal. All you have to do. And Andrew Coyne going, fire every member of the debate commission. Wow. So yeah, not oddly enough, the Federal Debate Commission made more news than the debate. Go figure. As for the debate itself, I don't know how to qualify it. You know, as I was writing about it, I was trying to say, lackluster affair. And it's not that it was lackluster, and it's not that it was unexciting, but it, I don't know, man. I was unsatisfied. I just was. The format was okay. I found that the moderator, even though they did a good job, intervened a lot, was having more discussions and crosstalk, sometimes with the candidates than the candidates were having between themselves at times. There were some surprises in that the most aggressive person on the set was Jagmeet Singh, interestingly enough. And even though he spoke less than everyone else at the end of the debate, I think he had spoken about 22 minutes when everybody else had spoken about 25. He seemed more present than he spoke, put it that way. But he was very, very, you could say either aggressive or assertive, one or the other here, depending on what frame you want to put on it. And as we were talking about yesterday, when it came to these debates, we were talking about how Monsieur Blanchet and Monsieur Singh would, in particular, have a lot, try to make a moment. They were the two most likely who were going to try to make a moment, right? Whereas Poilievre and Mark Carney were trying not to do damage to themselves, right? Them too had to try to swing for the fences because they're trying to claw some of the vote that has gone away from them back to them in certain ways. The opening parts of the debate are very, how would I put it? I'm trying to figure out how to say it. As I mentioned, like the debate was divided into 5 different themes last night. And so they had things organized in a way, and the leaders knew what was coming, but some of them right off the bat were trying to bring their arguments to bring in things that would go to other themes later. So there was a lot of lack of discipline. At certain times, I found it was rather cacophonous, just too much going on, too much chatter, which is too bad. But it wasn't all like that. It was just a couple of times. You got in from a lot of the questions. I think there were too many questions, so that made that at some times, for example, tell us why it is that you think you're best to deal with Trump. You have 45 seconds. I'd probably like something a little more developed on something like that. However, there were periods, lengthy periods, where the candidates could go between themselves with this moderator, sometimes interjecting to add an extra question or add an extra layer. And those were pretty good overall there. No complaints about that. There are a couple of moments, and hopefully I learned last night how to do this, and I will be able to show them to you, kits and cubs here. The first question of the debate was pretty simple, was given that Trump was so dominant, name two things that you would do that are priorities for you that are not, that have nothing to do with Trump. So they answered that. It was a sort of a warm-up question. And then they asked who was the best to deal with Trump. And that happened. And then we get to a point where you see, this is I believe this is the first time you see that Jagmeet is going to be a little bit aggressive in this clip, the first clip I'm going to show. So Jagmeet was trying to be sure that he had like lots of energy and could be seen and was being active. Carney, how would I put it? He did what he had to do. He did not stumble. He did not fall. There was one question having to do something with rebates in Quebec with regards to climate stuff, and I'm not sure if he was talking about the climate rebate because from the regular carbon tax, because none of that goes to Quebec because they're under the cap and trade system, or if it was a rebate for another system like the industrial system or something. There was a bit of a lack of clarity there as to what he was talking about. Even the moderator wasn't sure. Like, wait a minute, you're talking about like consumer carbon rebates coming back to Quebec? And that was not satisfyingly resolved. So I really don't know what they were getting at there. That was probably Carney's toughest moment in French. But overall, he did very well, and typical Carney. Was a little slower in looking for his words, but very methodical in laying things out. There was a surprising amount of deference in terms of letting people speak. Some commentators have made have noted that they're not sure of whether or not that was just because the candidates decided to do that or whether or not it was just some of the format. But I was surprised by how much room was given to Mark Carney to actually be able to speak without being talked over. So I'm guessing that people decided to maybe either not be as aggressive or maybe thought that if they talked less and let him talk more, that he'd be more likely to make a stumble of some kind. I'm not sure what the strategy is in there, but I found, listen, I'm very happy that he was given space. Maybe they just found that it would just come across as really, really bad if they were all talking over him as soon as he took a little too long to get something out. But that part I found interesting, that it wasn't as aggressive in that sense. Mr. Poilievre, it's kind of hard to say how it was. I was underwhelmed, and I found him underwhelming. But he did do a lot of stagecraft things very right, which will help get his message. He might have been the most effective at getting his message through to the audience who would listen to him during the debate. He didn't have the demeanor that you saw in the scrum very much. He wasn't that kind of aggressive in going into those territories and subjects as much. He really was, once again, pretty much trying to do his best to Mark Carney. Right, even right in the opening, like he starts with a couple of lines that Carney has made famous this election because again he got to speak first. So yeah, like he looked at the camera, right? He had clear messages that he was putting out. He wasn't too smarmy. There's one little point near the beginning where he was, but he wasn't too smarmy. There were a couple of times he went into a sort of like robot stump speech, but modified it enough to sort of like keep it somewhat fresh. But he didn't really take a swing, like at all. like when they're saying, there was no knockout punch, he didn't try to land one. So I think his objectives were completely different in this way. He was presenting way more calm and poised and all of that. There's a lot of people that commented this is the first time I've seen that he's capable of being prime ministerial not prime ministerial, relative to previous performance, of course, for a sustained amount of time. But there was still a lot of BS in the answers, right? But he was trying to present it as a more serious politician than a carnival barker. So over here, let's see if I can get it for you. All right, should be close. And if I remember how to do this right. There we go. Yes. Okay, doing well so far. Let's move them over. That'll be good. Let's see if I can get a better one. Yeah, that's better. All right. This is where, so they've had the questions where they've asked the two things and why you'd be best in like 45 seconds to deal with Trump. So they're still talking about who is the best to deal with Trump there, but they're about, I'd say about 3 or 4 minutes into it at this point.
So, open debate to begin now for about 15 minutes. Mr. Poilievre, you have called Carney a political grifter, a globalist banker who's disconnected from reality. And Mr. Carney, you've said Pierre Poilievre is a career politician who knows nothing about how the real world works. So I ask you the question, which of you first is capable of standing up to Donald Trump? Mr. Poilievre.
I am, because I'm going to put Canada first. I will never compromise Canada's interests. And I will control what we can control here. Obviously, no one will be able to control the decisions of Donald Trump, but we can control our economy, our domestic economy, by overturning liberal economic policies that have weakened our country and made us more dependent on the Americans.
Mr. Poilievre,
Well,
you would make Canada more like the United States. You would Americanize our healthcare system, privatize it. Everyone knows that's what conservatives do.
That's not true.
Mr. Carney, you said that you're better?
All right. First of all, I know how to negotiate. And I agree with Mr. Singh. We need to start by saying what's never going to be on the table. The French language, Quebec's culture, and supply management will never be on the table. Our resources, that's the first thing. Second, in terms of Mr. Blanchet's point, the opportunities that we have with the European Union are there, and I've already started building new relationships with the European Union. As Prime Minister, I met with the President of France and with the President of the European Commission.
There's a lot to unpack in there, let's be honest. And perhaps it's right. You say that you're an expert in managing a crisis, but you say you're a negotiator, but, well, perhaps negotiating with tax havens. But when it comes to trade agreements, I haven't seen the proof. We apparently have to believe you with no political experience. And so I find this kind of funny because people say we have to unite and work together. On the one hand, you have never spoken to me before this evening. You're not trying to figure out how to collaborate between equals, Quebec, Canada, Mexico, European partners. You're trying to score divisive points that only serves the United States of America.
All right. I've just started as Prime Minister. I've been Prime Minister for a month. In the first week, I signed an agreement with the premiers of all the provinces, the Premier of Quebec and the premiers of all the provinces and territories concerning free trade within Canada. It's also an agreement that deals with trade corridors. That's an example. That's an example.
You haven't sat with any premiers. You've sat with MPs that will be elected at the same level as you if you're elected.
All right. So, not sure what that last intervention from Monsieur Blanchet was all about, because he has indeed sat with the premiers for those meetings. Now, you will notice that in that exchange, when the moderator was asking the questions, says, Mr. Polyev, you've called Carney this. Mr. Carney, you've said this about Mr. Polyev. Mr. Polyev answers, and then Jagmeet Singh just inserts right there when the question's not about him, for him, or anything at all. Right? And accuses Pierre Polyev, boom, of wanting to Americanize stuff. So that will give you a sense of what, Mr. Jagmeet, Mr. Singh was, feisty, for lack of a better word, in that case. And you will also notice there Monsieur Blanchet's first exchange with Mr. Carney. And you will notice already the rather dismissive tone. And this was the thing that I was worried about for Monsieur Blanchet. The word on the tweet from the campaign is that he has been frustrated that he has not been able to break through the news cycle. He really thought that he started the campaign and is launching, at some point we're going to have to be talking about something other than Trump. And when we do, we'll be there because every day we'll have a policy. And that's basically the conservative strategy as well. But you see there in his opening, he's criticizing Carney. He says, you're supposed to be this great negotiator, whatnot, like this. And it's like, I have seen no evidence of your negotiating skills. I've seen no evidence of your abilities. And it's like, Donald Trump was saying 51st state the entire time, all the time. That has stopped. There's a military thing with Australia that happened. He did go over, and start this processes with in France and in the UK with the European Union. He did have meetings with the premiers, and they did have that agreement. I mean, even Danielle Smith signed the communique that time. But François Legault as well, right? And there's no love lost between François Legault and Yves-François Blanchet, right? Yeah, François Legault finds Yves-François Blanchet a bit redundant or superfluous. As far as François Legault is concerned, the matters of Quebec and Quebec's interests are already defended at the Assemblée Nationale. There already is a sovereign government taking care of that. Thank you very much. You're not needed. Sorry, I just got a little case of sudden dry beaver here. It's terrible. I'm going to take care of that. Thanks to you, kids and cubs. Delish. There you go. So, this part of Mr. Blanchet then takes a dig, right, in there, slides a little dig. I've seen no evidence of all these leadership qualities and whatnot, and maybe when it comes to setting up tax havens, but just throws it in. That's the thing with Monsieur Blanchet. He can be very flowery and poetic and whatnot, but if he is feeling somewhat miffed or whatnot, he gets a little cutting and bitchy. And I mean, I know about being cutting and bitchy. So. Throughout the debate, I found, now again, you have to take everything I say about Monsieur Blanchet with a grain of salt. I always say this every time I talk about him. I have had a personal run-in with him in which I was at the receiving end of some racism, very gratuitous racism. So I do not think very highly of him as a person. I do, however, try to set that aside when I comment about him. But I want to put it out there because on the show, we put the biases on the table, and we put the things transparently up front so that you can take the best and leave the rest. But in this debate, I found him to often be dismissive, somewhat arrogant, a little haughty would be the word. And you can even see it. There's a picture of the four leaders, the picture that they took of them all standing, and he's standing like legs spread and arms like this, right? Just like I'm the man here. I'm the cock of the walk type thing. And he kind of behaved like it. He was cutting in at times, and then some people were saying stuff, and then turned to the moderator, well, I hope you're going to let me talk about that, right? And sometimes not even letting the moderator finish the question before he jumped on. He seemed to want to be doing everyone's job. I kind of compare it to when we're playing curling, and you get the one person who's extremely zealous, who the skip can be telling you what they want with regard to the line, and you're just overriding because you know better. And then the shot goes to the wrong spot, and they go, oh, well, I thought I was going to do this. Like, yeah, stop thinking. So I got the feeling he was trying that both he and Jagmeet Singh were trying to make a moment happen too much. And Monsieur Blanchet, for me, came across as a little more off-putting. There were times where when Mr. Singh was in agreement with him, he turns around, wow, I can't believe. It was like, we're finally in agreement. But it was not like, oh my God, I can't believe we're finally in agreement. No, I can't believe we're finally in agreement. Right? It's just that little bit of acidity there. And when he's in a passionate defense of something, that can serve. But in this type of forum, to me, there's a word in French, mesquin. It might be petty, the word. Might translate to petty, but with a mean edge to it. So yeah, to open up with a Mark Carney, I've not seen any evidence of all your prowess and whatnot, then make the tax haven reference there. It's like, it wasn't necessary, and especially for your first intervention, right? In the debate, this is the first, not the first intervention, because they had the other two questions, but they were solo one after another questions. But this is the first interaction, the first clash, and also complaining, that Mark Carney never called him or talked to him until now. It seems a lot. You didn't call me. Again, as your first intervention. So there's clearly some frustration with Carney that he's not been able to pierce the bubble in any way, shape, or form. And it was showing during the course of the debate. He just seemed to be everywhere. And if you were watching the timers, many times during the debate, he was close to 1 minute ahead of everyone else. And then the moderator made sure to bring everything back. But often in the debate, he was like taking the lead and talking first. And often like almost like he was like holding court, right? Telling everybody, he's like, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be here in Quebec, over here. And a lot of the hands and stuff like that, and body language, so like hand up and like stop and like fingers, and so when you add it all together, it was just a little haughty, I found, and sometimes it works for him depending on what he's fighting for, and other times it doesn't. And this time I didn't find it did. Now again, if you're voting for him, you probably liked what you saw there. So, but I don't think he won himself any new voters with anything that he did. And I don't think Carney did so bad or reacted poorly to anything that Blanchet tried to throw his way in such a way that would make Quebecers move away on this one. So, yeah. Unless someone drops a gift in his lap again tonight, and it's Steve Bacon. So I hope, because he's a moderator with experience, that will not happen. But it seems that Yves-François Blanchet might have a little difficulty with the last couple of days of the campaign. That is, if the Québécois didn't see it differently and decided that some votes are going to swing his way and are going to leave the Liberals. So yeah. That was something I had noticed. The other thing, next one I want to show you here is the first moment between Pierre and Jagmeet during this debate. So hold on, I will change the windows first. That way you can get the better view. And here we go.
The problem, Mr. Carney, is that your party has been in power for 10 years. And in that time, it's not meetings that are going to change things. It's your policies that have blocked resources. C-69, which blocks not just pipelines, but also dams, mines, and liquid natural gas exploration. We have a deal with Europe, a trade deal. The Conservatives negotiated it, but Liberal legislation has prevented development, and you continue to support those laws. Those laws need to be repealed and replaced with laws that will unleash our resources and allow us to export abroad and allow us to become truly economically and
talk about that later.
Sovereign and
In a war,
have
you need
energy
to determine
sovereignty
your
as well.
priorities. Mr. Carney, unfortunately, your priority is, well, you had time to meet with the king, but you did not increase the amount of money people receive when they lose their jobs due to the trade war. These days, people receiving EI get maybe half of their salary. For people who have already lost their jobs, that is not enough. It won't cover the bills. It won't cover their rent costs. That shows your priorities. For me, workers are number one. We need a system to support our workers.
We'll hear some in a few seconds, but Mr. Carney, response, and then I have another question for Blanchet.
Well, first of all, we need to fight in a trade war. We need to fight with counter tariffs. And all the money collected from our counter tariffs will go directly to workers and the businesses that are the most affected by this trade war. They won't be used for tax cuts the way that Mr. Poilievre is going to do.
You always want to increase them. You're a liberal. We want to cut
just
taxes.
Started as Prime Minister.
For a fourth liberal term.
I've just started.
You were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Have you forgotten that?
Honestly, let me cut in here. Both of them would cut taxes for billionaires and millionaires. They have already done it in the past. Your first step was to reduce taxes for the millionaires. Pierre Poilievre would do the same thing.
That's not
You're
true.
not thinking of regular people.
We've cut the consumer carbon
Great.
tax. That's what
Mr.
we
Singh,
did.
Mr. Blanchet.
All right. So here we had some clashes and some good back and forth here. This was about the smarmiest that Pierre was during the debate. So that was like the regular Pierre, right? The see him laughing. And, he was economic advisor. Do you not remember that? And then you see Jagmeet Singh, coming in and mixing up. Balash is just like staying out of it. So, but right, some good back and forth. Jagmeet Singh doing the same thing, trying to go full class war again, saying they only want to benefit the rich, and accusing Carney of already cutting taxes for the rich. He said, well, it's like that's not true. I cut the carbon tax, but of course, when Jagmeet Singh is referring to canceling the capital gains exclusion increase, which Jagmeet Singh announced a couple of days before the debate that the NDP would reinstitute if it were to form the government. So he's talking about that one in terms of cutting taxes for the rich, and then Mark Carney points out, says, yeah, but I also cut the consumer carbon tax, right? So there's and then there's other accusations and counter arguments in there. But you kind of, again, these are the initial impressions. And the reason I'm showing you these ones, right, is because there's a lot of people that will tune in and watch the first couple of seconds or the first couple of minutes, first half hour of the debate, and then tune out to go to another thing. The debate did get better in terms of content and flow as it did go on in time. And everybody got better. Even Mr. Carney got more and more comfortable in French. And so that part was good. But often the first clashes, right, you can see what people's objectives are, how they want to try to corner people, how they're trying to frame their opponents here. So I wanted to bring you that here. Now, Jagmeet in this scene here, this clip here that I'm going to show you, has a moment because Jagmeet, I'm not going to show you the clip where he gets into it with the moderator, but that was just not a great moment for him, right? But he also had probably the best moment of the night in terms of a one-liner or a quip. So let's bring that to you right over here. Oh, I didn't put myself into the larger window when I was talking, so I can just continue. There we go.
We've been telling Canadians for several days that it would be better to have a minority government. You said it clearly. With Trump, can Canadians not want a majority government that's stronger?
I don't know where that reasoning comes. The minority government would be weaker than a majority government. Go tell that to the Germans, who have only governed through coalitions recently. Many countries have coalitions, and if that is the population of the people, then great. At this point, it's possible that Canadians and Quebecers, perhaps, choose to trust in someone who has the least experience in politics. Quebec has a different economy, different interests, different everything. We want a parliament where our economic difference is taken into account.
Let's talk a little bit about
Mr. Singh, in terms of the minority government.
The whole point of a minority government is to help people, to make a difference in people's lives. But honestly, Mr. Blanchet, unfortunately, in the last minority government, you showed that you were as useless as the monarchy is. You did nothing for people. What is worse, you voted against measures that would help Quebecers. Dental care, pharmacare. These are measures that have helped hundreds of thousands of Quebecers.
Quebec jurisdiction, dental care, health care,
people in Quebec,
pharmacare,
people
money
in
that we
Quebec
send to Ottawa. Ottawa does not have the expertise or its jurisdiction.
We are
Quebec
paying their bills.
does. Mr. Roy, please let me finish one sentence.
Please wrap it up.
When we want to be effective, we give the money to the experts, those who have the legal jurisdiction to spend the money, and that is Quebec in this case. The NDP gave $2 billion to an insurance company.
Giving money to our Quebec seniors.
All right. So that was some of the cacophonous mess that happened because Mr. Singh was saying something that Mr. Blanchet didn't like because Mr. Blanchet did vote against dental care and pharmacare. But Mr. Blanchet says, of course, it's not because he doesn't support those things in theory, but because, it was an intrusion in Quebec's competences. So it was all there. Here we go. And they got into it there. But you can see, right? Mr. Singh has no problem going after everyone here. Blanchet, you will see you'll remember if you were watching the side by side while the question was being asked, you could see his face, right? He did not look happy in any way, shape, or form. Whereas Monsieur Singh was looking a little more serene. So hold on, hope I can go back and get it for you here. But yeah, there we go, kits and cubs. Right? Very, very thin-lipped, like this squared chin. He almost looks like he's clenching his jaw. Right? So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it turned anybody off. I don't know if I'm just the only one who noticed it. I don't know if I'm seeing it because I have a bias. But yeah. For me, I found that behavior slightly off-putting. Now, Jagmeet Singh's line to Mr. Blanchet that in the last parliament, you're about as useful as is the monarchy. That must have stung a little bit. Mr. Blanchet had a good poker face, though. Didn't let it show. The last clip that I want to show you, Kits and Cubs, it has to do with the stagecraft of the debate. And this is one of the reasons why I'm saying I don't know how to take Pierre's, because he did have that one moment of smarm. And of course, he's doing the conservative talking points and that type of stuff. but trying to deliver it with more, hey, I'm a reasonable, kind of nice guy, ready to lead, can be prime ministerial sort of tone for the most part. But I can't believe it from him, right? Now, if people don't know him very well, maybe they'll buy it, or maybe if it's this first time they see him, they say, oh, he's not that bad. But I personally can't buy it, having seen him for 20 years. So then again, like I might have a block there. But in terms of stagecraft, he did a lot of things really well. And this is something I will show you. And hopefully this is something that maybe Mr. Carney can correct before the debate tonight. All right, here we go. Whoops, sorry. I rewinded it back to show you the side-by-side, which means I have to bring it back to where it was before the side-by-side. I'm so silly sometimes. There we go.
Giving
Everything was
money to our
going
Quebec seniors.
fine until now, but Mr. Carney, in terms of the minority government,
Mr. Roy, we are in a crisis, the most serious crisis of our lives. We need to react with resounding, overwhelming strength. Yes, we need to cut a few taxes. Yes, we need to cut bureaucracy. But the government needs to act in a time of crisis. So we need to have a government ready to act.
But when you were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, you weakened our economy. We need economic sovereignty, and that means bringing back production to Canada. And I would reverse Liberal policies around development. I would expedite construction permits. We would have pre-approved permits. And that would, and I would also make sure that we could send our energy to Europe to break Europeans' dependence on Putin, and to break our dependence on the U.S.
The Conservatives and the Liberals both prioritize the ultra-rich, not you, not
Great,
regular
we do
Canadians.
have a segment on that.
That's the difference.
All right, so if you're watching the clip, if you noticed Jagmeet Singh, when he's talking directly to the camera. When Pierre Poilievre is talking, he's talking directly to the camera. Mr. Carney is talking to the moderator. So he's not looking straight into the camera talking to you at home, right? He even turned around at the beginning of this answer, Monsieur Roy addressing the moderator as he's answering his questions. So somebody needs to grab him and say, tomorrow night, which is tonight, when you're answering, look straight into that thing. He's got those beautiful baby blues, just like have baby blues will travel. Look into that camera and seduce Canada. So that was the only one thing but in terms of stagecraft, so you see Pierre was there, slower tone, slower delivery, trying to look reasonable, trying to look prime ministerial, trying to do his best Mark Carney in terms of it being calm and reassuring, but always making sure, turned around, looked at Carney, said something like this, and then turned straight to the camera and is talking to you. So with that and his message discipline, he had the good sort of 30 or 40 second sound bites, but there wasn't very much deep when you were going into it, right? You see this answer, right? The question here is, does the person who wins this election require a very strong mandate in order to be able to deal with Trump? And he's talking about we need to build this and we need to do that and we need to permit this, which is not at all on the question. So he's reverting back to his safe spots in terms of his campaign stump speech when he's going there, but he's not delivering it like he's at a campaign rally, right? He's not delivering it like he's in one of those videos where he's walking fast and moving his fingers and all that kind of stuff and pointing at things. Right? He's sort of, if I was Mark Carney delivering this, how would I deliver this? Sort of going at it. So he's, by having the succinct message, by staying on it, by delivering it in that way, by looking directly at the camera, he's of the four, he's probably the one that got his message out the best. But is it a compelling message? No. for all the toning down he did to look prime ministerial, he lacked the passion. So that's why I was saying that the performance was, it's not that it was bad, but it was just underwhelming. I expected, without having the aggressive showman, because that turns people off, I expected a little more energy or vim and vigor of some type, but he toned it down like a lot, all the way down. And then you saw it in the scrum again that some of it was coming back, right? Some of these questions were his happy place and he was going there. But this one, it really seemed that, he was really trying to control himself. And so what it had in control and poise, it did lack in passion and in, sitting at home going, hey, I like what this guy's saying. This will make you sit up. If you like what he's saying, you like what he's saying. But you can like what he's saying because you're really paying attention, you're doing the work, and you can like what he's saying because he's connecting with you somewhere emotionally. Like that's where you have the feeling that he's saying it with his chest, right, with his full chest. And I didn't get really much of that from him over the course of this debate. Now, many other topics were, of course, discussed. Nothing groundbreaking, really, in any of them. Very little discussion of francophones outside Quebec, very little discussion of Indigenous issues. Even at one point, I think Pierre Poilievre, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, had given an, actually, I don't want to attribute that to him to be sure, but one of the candidates made a comment having to do, with some founding cultures. I think it was in the Canadian identity section. And nobody mentioned anything Indigenous in the whole Canadian culture and identity section whatsoever, which is actually surprising. So, yeah, no big surprises. Sometimes some inconsistencies in terms of people making arguments like Blanchette stating, for example, that right, you can't really negotiate with Donald Trump because everything changes all the time. There's nothing stable. So, he's saying that, but then when he's talking about energy, he's talking about, the clean energy that Quebec can make and, and could do very well selling it to the south of us, to a person you just said 20 minutes earlier in another discussion that we really can't trust because his word's not, worth it on a deal. So there were things like that. If you were really paying attention to the subject matter, you could see that sometimes they were trying to have it both ways, depending on the subject matter. But overall, it was a pretty solid debate. If you hadn't heard much, it might have been informative in terms of hearing some broad outlines of things that they were wanting to do, but there was no development really. The exchange periods in there weren't of the nature where they were going into one thing or one specific policy and really delving into it, but more that they were, trying to get all the elements of their platform various in and trying to fit them in with a little bit of explanation and relating. So yeah, but still pretty decent overall in terms of quality. For tonight, so sorry, before we get to tonight, definitely no knockout punches. Nobody really took a very big swing. Jagmeet Singh was the one that was trying to land the most stuff last night. Like I said, Mark Carney got through it. His French was clear. He was relatively steady. He was given a lot of leeway for it. So I don't know if that was a strategic error or a good thing, because not doing so would have looked worse. But he definitely did not come out unscathed. He definitely did not hurt himself. He didn't snarl himself in anything. And for that, given the expectations, that's good. That's a win. Pierre Poilievre, same thing. Didn't frighten the villagers, was able to keep the smarm in check. had good message discipline, did the stagecraft right. But there was nothing in the message that was particularly compelling or that had that passion element that would make somebody say, hey, I'm going to rally to this guy. But again, did not do himself any damage for all intents and purposes. And then for Jagmeet Singh and Yves-François Blanchet, Jagmeet Singh, bless his heart, he really tried. He did what he needed to do to try to get into the fray and into the mix and, get some clips and that he can use and be talked about. And we'll see if that gives him a little bump. But that's about all he had for him, was to try to hopefully get a viral moment or two that would circulate so that he would be the talk. And the monarchy one will definitely be one. But again, right, as a punch, it's not you had a choice, sir. Right? It's more like being bopped on the nose with a rolled up newspaper. But it will circulate. It will play for him. And then with Blanchet, and in the end, it just depends how the Québécois perceived it. If the Québécois felt him to be mean-spirited and frustrated, it won't generate him extra support. If they did find him to be a good défenseur of the French language and the French culture and of the voice of Quebec in decision making, then he'll probably get a bump out of this, a small one. But it's really hard to tell on that one for me. Like I said, I can see how people would like it. I can see how there's a segment that would like it, but for me, it was just, yeah, it didn't do it for me last night. I did. It was not magnetic. It did not draw me to him. And there are several times because we've shown clips of him before where I'm going, oh yeah, Eve, right? And he's got it right. So I think I'm good enough at putting my personal experience aside, but I do, like I said, I do want to mention it, and I always mention it because, right, I don't want you, we always don't want you to take what I say as the gospel, but take what we say and then, of course, then go out and, look at other stuff yourself and then make your own decisions, right? Form your own opinions. But yes, we have it right here. Snack pack. Pierre did not do any damage over the course of last night. And over here we have Kit Linda saying the big question was whether Carney could keep up in French, and I think that issue has been settled. Yes, and it is getting better. It is absolutely getting better. Yes, Snack Pack, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'd forgotten that and I wanted to raise it up. Mr. Carney, one of his go-to lines over the course of the debate is, of course, like, I've only been here a month, or I just got here. So, they're trying to blame him for everything, or why didn't you do anything yet? Like when Jagmeet Singh was saying, you didn't raise the amount that people could get from EI. Well, yeah, he didn't, because that's something you got to legislate, and Parliament didn't sit. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to. Doesn't mean he doesn't intend to. Doesn't mean he's opposed to it. But yes, of course, he hasn't done it yet because there was no mechanism. He did what he could do prior to going to an election. But of course, everything, the whole compensation packages aren't all set and defined and everything because they still need to be voted on, right? So some of the attacks are a little disingenuous if you understand process, right? But yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Kit, the Snack Pack. That was a definitely useful note because I'd noted it twice in my head and then I forgot. Oh yeah, Elaine says we were talking about eating the dogs in the chat last night. Yeah. Oh God, I wish I could remember what that. Oh yeah, it was the cars. Pierre Poilievre made some outlandish claim somewhere along the way that you won't be able to drive your cars anymore. Like, out in the country in Quebec, you need those cars. So that's why I was saying, like, every now and then he had these outlandish moments, but he didn't deliver them with the usual skippy zeal. So he tried to tone it down. But it's like everybody knows that that law is about, right, combustion engine vehicles in terms of manufacturing them, that we're going to stop doing that after a certain while. But that doesn't mean that everybody's going to come for your car that you have, right, and pull it away and say you're not allowed to drive it anymore. Right? It's like, no, it's just that, when that one gets run into the ground, the next one you're going to buy is going to be electric because that's all that will be available to buy unless you buy another used one that's not. But we won't be making new ones. So, but Pierre Poilievre is trying to portrayed this as they're coming for your cars. So that was the eating the dogs and eating the cats kind of moment of it. Again, nowhere near as dramatic as eating dogs and cats, but like, does anybody really believe that people are coming for your cars? And that especially if you don't live in an urban area, it will just leave you without a car. Come on, man. So yeah, for tonight, Mr. Carney, hopefully there will be more energy. He can't just sort of skate by. He was, of course, not having as much ease in the language, being able to jump in and be a little more assertive and cut people off, and insert himself into things and get into the mix was a little less of an option. So it'll be nice to see if he can do that tonight. With regard to Pierre, he didn't have much to gain by going full-throated, anti-everything. He might have a little more to gain tonight if the strategy of the party is that they assume that they are not going to get any new voters, and it's just to lean into the dickishness in order to be able to get the committed vote to come out. We might see more of the smarm tonight, but he could. We have seen him try to don on the prime ministerial outfit a couple of times during this campaign, so we might see that tonight. But let's put it this way. He is very, 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 very well rehearsed. Very well rehearsed. Mark Carney, like I said, needs to really just look at the camera, show more energy. I think I mentioned that before. And Blanchette, I don't know what for the English debate. And now people keep on wondering, like, why is he in the English debate? Because he's not running seats in all of Canada except for Quebec. Yes, but there are Anglo-Quebecers. And even though maybe not a lot of them might vote Bloc, they are still entitled to hear what it is that he's got to say. I assume he will take a slightly less prominent role tonight. However, on anything, his role here in the English debate will be on anything not having to do specifically on Quebec or sovereignty issue. If he is saying something, odds are it's pretty reliable. And he doesn't have much love for Pierre Poilievre, so maybe there'll be a couple of well-placed digs this way on him tonight. But there's not much for it in him in swinging for the fences in English unless something's going to fall into his lap, like did in the English debate last time, and then he can go back to Quebec and say, see, I told you they were like this, and rally people at the last moment. So that's what we will be looking for tonight, kids and cubs. And hopefully you will join us for the debate. I'm now no longer sure what time it's at. I think it's at 7 p.m. because I think the original one was supposed to be at 8, moved to 6. So yes. So I think it's at 7 p.m. tonight. So hopefully, kids and cubs, you will join us, because I will definitely do a live of the debate as it is going on. And so if you would like to watch it together, please join us tonight. Thank you so much. And with that, I think we have a show. All that Therme and Doug Ford stuff at the beginning was an unexpected little gift of news. So it made the show a little longer than it usually is. But hopefully you were entertained and informed. Kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you're the type of person who listens to us on podcast form because, you're a busy Canadian on the go and you don't want to miss an episode, well, hey, you don't have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page. If you're watching right now and you see the QR code, if you just scan that, that will bring you right there. But if you're listening, you go to podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, zip, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. You don't even have to go searching for it. And thanks to the kids and cubs who have been putting us on the Apple Politics podcast charts again. Now that we've gotten over our technical difficulties, I think some of our audience is finding us again, but we've been on the charts for the last 4 days. So thank you so much. It's nice to be visible again, because that's a good way for people to know that we exist and to find us as well when we show up there. So thank you for keeping us visible. We really, really do appreciate it. And we do thank you for your patience, those of us who are listening to us on podcast, because, we haven't, because of the technical difficulties and whatnot, and a whole bunch of other things, you've been bounced around for almost the better part of a year. So your patience and understanding is extremely appreciated. And we hope to be on to a more regular schedule from now on. All right. If you would like to help us in other ways, kits and cubs, one way you can do that is by surfing yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, and that QR code that just appeared in the corner will bring you there if you scan it. Now, if you go there, Kits Elaine and Kits Cassie will be ushering you in and asking you to click our buttons. We have like, we have share, we have subscribe. Please give them a little click. It helps us with the algorithm, and it makes us happy when we go back and check on them and see that, oh, look at all the people who like this. It's really nice. And if you are subscribing, yes, we're back over the 18,000 again. Somebody last night watching the show must have liked it. And so, yay, 18,000 again. Woohoo. And Kit Saucy says here, thank you to all the new subscribers and people who have visited the chat. And un petit bonjour to Kit's, Sylvie, and, I hope it's Karen, if I remember correctly, who joined us for the French show last night. It was so nice to be able to do a coverage in French. I don't get to use it all that often. And it was nice to have some people there. And from the people from this show, depending who come in and join us in the mornings, there's some people who don't necessarily speak French and came in anyway to enjoy the chat, which was very, very nice, because it made me feel like I had some good company, and that I'm doing this for someone while I'm doing it live and there are people there. So thank you for that. It provoked a nice, warm fuzzy. All right. If you would like to support us in other ways, kits and cubs, you can do that. We do incur some financial costs to bring the show to you. And if you were in any way able to help with that, because you like what we do and you want to encourage us to do more, we would appreciate the help. You can do so by scanning that QR code, which will bring you to our tip jar at the Beaver Lodge, or as we call it, the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. Because as you can hear, we need to constantly fight the scourge that is dry beaver. So if you would like to do your part as a good Canadian to keep your favorite beaver moist, well then, have I got a deal for you. You scan that QR code, or you go to our coffee page. That's at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, and you leave us a little something. And I tell you, almost instantly, your sex appeal goes up by about 26.7%. It just does. It's science. It just does. Tipping is very, very sexy. So is voting, by the way. But yes, tipping is very, very sexy. So thank you to everyone who does offer us enthusiastic expressions of encouragement to keep going. We appreciate everything. Of course, we reinvest everything into the show to try to make it better for you. And thank you for all of your support. Now we know that times are tight, right? And some people are worried, and they're maybe keeping their powder dry, so that's fine, right? You do what you got to do. But please do keep coming to the show, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us, and we really do want to hear from you. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. You can write to us on our socials at TrueEager, both at The Good Place, Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and The Bad Place on Jitter. True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home on the web, where you can find our blog page. Or you can also, if you are listening here on YouTube, either live with the Damn Fam or after the show, right here in the comments section, just leave us a little something. Let us know what you think. We do read everything. We're not able to get back to everyone, but again, everything you tell us, we factor it in, and it goes into making the show better. So thank you so very much. Also, please do send your questions for a Q&A show about politics. What do you want to know about politics? Do you have any questions? Do you want our views or opinions about something? Is there something you want us to explain? Please send us the question, Q&A, and I will definitely make some time and create a special show and then answer them. But I need a bunch of them if I'm going to do that. So please send that to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. I really, really do appreciate it. All right. Also, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send us a financial transaction that goes directly through your bank if you want to avoid the CE Tech Bros, if you're buying Canadian and boycotting America, because coffee goes through PayPal. So if you want to bypass that and make your transaction 100% Canadian, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send the transfer. And that way we get 100% of your donation, and it's win-win-win. Thank you so much for everything that you're able to do. And remember, kids and cubs, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, reviews, stars, they really help. When you share it and you leave a comment on top of it when you share it, that means a lot too. It really helps. So thank you, everybody, for all that you're doing to help us gain engagement. We really do appreciate it, and we couldn't do it without you. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, please remember that there's a Quebec Liberal leadership race, and that closes sometime in June. So if there is still time to register to vote and all that stuff, do make sure you do that. And if you are in Manitoba, the Progressive Conservative leadership race, the results will be announced on the 26th, and you have to get your mail-in votes by the 22nd. They have to be received there in the office by the 22nd. So there's not a lot of days left. So please do make sure that you do that. Also, we are in, I believe, anticipatory voting period is coming very, very, very soon. So I want to give you a little bit of information about that. So just so you know, okay, the election website, there it is. I thought things had changed, but I was just looking at the wrong place. So if you're a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, you are an elector who can vote at the military polls set up for their base or unit, and that will go until the 19th. So you have 3 more days on that. Yesterday was the day for the incarcerated electors to vote at the place where they are serving their sentence. Advanced polling stations will be open tomorrow on the 18th, starting from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 4 days, including Easter Sunday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if you have the opportunity to vote early, go there. April 20th to 22nd, there will be special ballot voting offered in acute care facilities, such as hospitals. And of course, until the 28th, you can vote by special ballot at any local Elections Canada office until, like I said, 6 p.m. on April 22nd. Campus voting is now term is now ended. That closed yesterday on the 16th. All right. Remember, if you do not receive your voter information card, that does not mean that you cannot vote. You just need 2 pieces of ID, 1 government issued piece of ID that has your name. Doesn't need to have your photo, but if it does, that's fine. But that has your name. If it also happens to have your name and address, like a driver's license, that will be good enough. If it doesn't have your address, then the 1 piece of ID that shows what your name is, and then another piece of ID, like for example, a bill that was sent to you at home, a copy of your lease that proves that you live where you do, will be enough. If you've moved in the last year and you don't have any of this, if you have a neighbor, someone you know in your neighborhood who does have these 2 pieces of identification and is willing to sign an attestation that you do live in the riding and that you are eligible to vote, you can vote that way too. So they really make it easy, right? There's no excuse not to. Please do come out and vote. And like we said, we really were hoping to get high turnout this time to be able to send a message. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly left you with some before he did go. I think I'm going to say the same one. Drink water. I'm going to be doing a lot of that today. And for those who are wondering, I am feeling a little better. I had come down with a bit of a cold. My voice is a little scratchy. You can hear that. But I don't have the post-nasal drip that I had yesterday morning during the show. So that's better. So thank you for all the healing vibes that you sent our way. We really do appreciate that. Okay. So I have to say then, kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now I shall cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster. Hot pepper sauce is made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. There you go, kids and cubs. A couple of Easter eggs for you. So, because we want to talk a little bit about some Canadians who make us proud. Yes, we do. Let's see, what have we got for you? I mentioned that Bianca Andreescu has returned to the tennis courts. Unfortunately, she lost her match yesterday against a higher-ranked player, but it was a good fight. It went 3 sets and it went to a tiebreak at the end. And Françoise Banda did win her match, so she's 2-1 for the season, and Bianca is 0-1, but it's just the first match coming back. You usually can't expect someone to win that one, but hopefully she will work off the rust and get back to her old self in no time flat. That would be a really great thing. I sort of lost track of the women's World Hockey Championships, so I don't know how Team Canada is doing. If there's anybody in the chat that actually has an update on that, I would really appreciate that, by the way. That's for my own personal benefit there. Yeah, that would be really good. There's another thing that happened. There's a sport out there that we're not particularly well known in, but we had a good result in Canada. And I'm hoping I can find the article. But in fencing, you will remember that we had that woman, Eleanor Harvey, I believe her name is, who had gone to the Olympics and surprised everyone with a bronze medal. And then it was all the more surprising because we almost got a second one in the team event. I think it was the women's team event where Team Canada ended up finishing 4th. And over the course of the weekend, it would seem that at the 2025 Junior and Cadet Fencing World Championships, Canada's athletes brought home not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 medals. 4 medals in fencing. Right? It just goes to show, right? You just need one person sometimes who breaks through, and then that just carries a lot of people with you. So yeah, 1 silver, and 2 bronze for Team Canada at that event. So congratulations. And again, fencing is not a sport that we hear a lot about, but if we keep on performing like this, there'll be a lot of On the Podium funding for it, and we might hear about it a whole lot more. But who knew? Canada, a fencing nation. There we go. And we're not talking about the fence that we put around our yard here. And in Windsor, a sport that we have more history in, diving, we're a pretty solid nation on there. But we've been working on developing the next gen. Well, it turns out that they have arrived, because at the start of another Olympic quadrennial, hold on a second, my beaver sweetie is looking for me. My apologies. I had my Beaver Sweetie's car keys in my pocket. He was going to work and he could not leave. Oops. All right. Kits and Cubs. What was I talking about here before I was wanting to go out? Yes, our divers. So yes, there was the 2025 World Aquatics Diving World Cup in Windsor, and Team Canada picked up 2 medals. Both came on the Saturday as 2 Canadian synchro teams reached the podium. Sonia Palkila, sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this, sorry. Sonia Palkivala and Amélie Laurent-Jasmin captured silver in the women's 3-meter synchro event with a score of 276.3 points. That put them just 0.9% ahead of third place. And then in the men's 10-meter synchro, Benjamin Tessier and Matt Cullen captured bronze, earning 381.15 points from the judges. Mia Vallée came close to adding another medal in the women's 3-meter springboard event, finishing just off the podium in 4th place. And so, yeah, a great competition for our teams here there. And one last thing in artistic swimming, which was used to be called synchro. Audrey Lamotte and I'm going to say that's Ximena Ortiz Montano competed together for just the second time and achieved their full difficulty to earn a score of 256.29, which was good enough for the bronze medal in the 29 team field in the duet technical event. So there you go. And the Canada finished 4th in the women's team's technical event, about 3.35 points shy of the podium. So again, it seems that the rebuilding within the artistic swimming team is also starting to pay off in terms of medals on the World Cup. There you go, Kits and Cubs. That's all I got for you. It's a big round of applause for all of our athletes who make us very proud. All right, Kits and Cubs, I'm off to rest for a little bit and to prepare then for the debate. I will see you tonight. Probably try to come on. Let's see if the debates are at 7. Maybe try to come on around maybe 6:30ish to have a little bit of pre-show and then watch some debate, or maybe 6:45. But look for it around that time. Now that I got all the technical stuff resolved, I'll be able to start it in time rather than about an hour and a half later. Hey, learning to produce your own stuff. It's tricky, but I'm learning. I'm new here. All right. Gros bisous. I love you very much. We'll talk to you soon. And now I just have to stick the landing. And I went to the wrong place, of course. Typical me. All right. Now we go.